on defense. They have young quarterbacks. They have offensive lines that are occasionally a little bit hit or miss, and they have big physical running backs. I mean, they're kind of the same team, but the record wouldn't reflect that because they didn't play equal schedules. That's what I think is really interesting about this year's college football is that we're kind of getting misled a little bit by what teams have played and what their record is.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. When you start looking just kind of across all of college football, I don't think it's just the SEC. I think there are a lot of teams nationally we're still trying to find out about, still trying to figure out about just kind of what they are, who they are, and it's going to be fun to continue to see. Auburn goes down to Vanderbilt over the weekend. I think you picked Vanderbilt late. You switched your pick.
No, I picked
to Auburn in the
late.
middle of the season, in the middle of the week, and then you went back to Vanderbilt at the end of the week, 17-7. Vandy gets to 6-3. They're bowl eligible. Diego Pavia didn't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting in this game. 9-22, 143, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He ran 12 times for 26 yards. There are a lot of folks saying, hey, he didn't do this. This was just kind of a sloppy game. Auburn's defense played well. Did think Auburn's defense did some good things. But the key to all of those numbers, Greg, and when you look at Auburn outgaining Vanderbilt by 100 yards, outpassing Vanderbilt 239 to 143, outrushing them 88 to 84. The reality of that is they got the style fight that they wanted, and that was a slower game, a methodical game, sort of just a fight in a mud bog, and that's kind of what they wanted. They didn't want this track meet back and forth up and down the field. That was the style fight that they wanted, and I felt like they knew when they were going to have to put it away late. And they got a massive methodical drive to be able to slam the door on Auburn. And it was just another disappointing, confusing performance for this Auburn football team.
It was. And you and I talked last night at 7 o'clock? It felt like 10. But I was getting ready to put the kids to bed and watch it. I couldn't wait to put it on. And what I expected to see was very different from what I got. I don't know about you. I mean, first impression, you said you watched it live, correct?
I did, yeah, and then watched it back last night.
Yeah, so I watched it. I did not get to see any of it live. So my expectation was that Auburn's offense had 50 plays and, they didn't have any rhythm, and they didn't really get a whole lot going because Vanderbilt had these long, time-consuming drives that might not have resulted in points but really affected the rhythm. Like, that wasn't the case. Auburn had 32 offensive snaps in the first half of the football game. Auburn in the first 3 quarters had 50 snaps, nearly 49 to be exact. It really wasn't the type of game that you would anticipate Auburn kind of struggling with, but their yards per play, their short yardage shortcomings, getting behind the sticks a couple times in the first half. I thought one offensive lineman in particular had a really, really rough day, especially early. Missed opportunities down the field. They probably had 3 or 4 that were either dropped or there was a good late pass breakup, or Peyton Thorne missed them high. It was just kind of it was a strange game. And with the exception of the fourth quarter time of possession dominance, I thought Vanderbilt would play 3 quarters like that en route to a victory if they won. Instead, it was really only 1 quarter in which Auburn barely had the football. And it was just a little surprising to see the game go the way it went.
Yeah, it's watching it, it didn't feel like Auburn was super flat right out of the gate initially. Didn't feel that way. Didn't come across that way. And then it just that the momentum that it felt like that they were kind of trying to build, wanted to build. It never got going full speed. Like you said, you get the right side of the offensive line misses just your basic twist, like a tackle in twist, and the end comes inside and he's able to get to the quarterback. There's a lot of folks are really mad about the tight end play down the seam, he's wide open. It's a great play design, but you go back and you watch it, and I thought the same thing. I was like, "Good Lord, Peyton, that's a bad throw,
overthrow."
Man.
Yeah,
the overthrow. But then you go back
right
and you
to left,
going right to left, and you go back and watch it, and there's a twist on the left side of the offensive line. It's not picked up. The guy's right in his face.
Fan it. Yeah, he's got no shot.
I didn't really see that live in the game, and it was just one of those. You're kind of like, man, it's. There's just so much to it. It's not blocking somebody on the backside. He's able to come track down, a zone play that had a chance to go. A tight end whiffing on a splitter coming across in a zone play, not able to go. But I think the most frustrating part for me, Greg, is when you watch a couple series early, you get some of the two-back stuff. You get different guys, like you see 11 lined up at kind of a H-back or the wide position and trying to do some different things, different personnel groupings. And it's like, okay, they got a little misdirection going. Like got a few things on the perimeter in the run game. And it's almost like those plays just disappear. And then the other part is, where were the things that were supposed to be built off of those plays later in the game? Where were the things that you were going to add to on those plays? Where were the things off of those plays that should have been open because they had to make an adjustment there? And it felt like Vanderbilt's defense, they got a lot of bear defense, and they just said, we're keeping everything in front. We're not going to be outnumbered in the box. If you can beat us down the field, beat us down the field. And I didn't feel like there definitely weren't enough of those shot plays that were taken. I didn't pay a ton of attention to exactly how many maybe were there or could have been there, but 3 probably balls down the field the entire game. And it felt like from a structure standpoint, there should have been able to be more.
What did you had the seam late to Rivaldo where a big tight end, a physical tight end, probably makes that catch. But it was a good throw. I mean, the corner collapses inside, knocks it down. You had the one overthrow, but that was the twist that you referenced off the inside. The D end goes right around the left guard. The left guard, I don't know what he was doing on a few different plays this weekend. He's not one that I've spent a lot of time worrying about, but I guess maybe now I need to with some of the movements and the alterations that they've made to the front. So that I thought was disappointing. I'm trying to think. They had a post over early that they hit. That was a good play. They had a check down actually that went for a big play out the left-hand side on a swing pass. That was a shot play called. But there's like a couple times that it's just sometimes I feel like they get cute for the sake of being cute. You referenced the two-back stuff. I like the two-back stuff. I think it's really good. You're 3rd and 4 in plus territory against Vanderbilt. You got bear defense. All right? Bear defense, 3rd and 4. You know what I'm talking about? They're about on the logo. It's near midfield, probably plus 46, plus 47 yard line. 3rd and 4, split backs. You got 0 on the left. You got 27 on the right. They go with the zone read. And I think if you hand it to Alston, I believe, they hand it to the back on the left, going to the right. Does he get the first down? Maybe. I think he might. If he breaks a tackle, he might have it. If he gets tackled by the one guy who's slightly unblocked but has to work through a lot of traffic, you got a 4th and 1 decision. And then guess what? As a play caller, I'm cooking with gas. I can make that decision. I probably will. And frankly, I'll probably get it. Instead, he pulls it, quick pitch, speed option, and it gives him plenty of time to rally up because the receivers aren't good blockers, haven't been all year, and make the play behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. It's like just little things, just too cute sometimes. I just don't really understand it. Look at the first 2 plays of the game. Go back to those. First play of the game was a big hit run out the left side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so.
You know what Jim Tressel used to say famously about his play calling? Jim Tressel, when he was a play caller a million years ago at Syracuse, great story about him. Handed off outside left tackle, gain of 7. Same play. Handed off left tackle, gain of 10. Handed off left tackle, gain of 14. Hand off left tackle, gain of 8. And Coach Mack, John McPherson, or whoever the coach, or Coach Mack, whatever his name is, the head coach of Syracuse, gets on the headset, says, "Jim, do we have any other plays?" And Jim Tressel would say, "Yes, coach, we do. And as soon as they stop this one, I'll get to the next one." There's just sometimes where first play of the game, right out of the gate, off tackle, you stretch it, boom. You could do the exact same thing the next play. Look at the naked bootleg that they call off of it and tell me how many yards Jarquez Hunter is going to gain if you just stick with it a little bit more. Instead, second play of the game, boot action. They get a completion, but it's a gain of 2 as opposed to a gain of 8. And now you got the defense on their heels because you gashed them on 2 consecutive run plays. Just sometimes I just don't understand why they call what they call. And I wish they would just
Well,
not
first
be
off, I'm
so
not sure the
cute
right
all
guy
time.
caught the ball on the boot. I mean, are we certain of that?
I haven't gotten through the progression. All I looked at was how much green grass was to the perimeter in the run game.
mean,
Did you see the perimeter run game? Look at the
yeah,
run. If you hand it off, you got stretch zone, it's out the gate.
Well, that's kind of
It's
where I
just-
went with the two back stuff and the perimeter runs that were there, and then later in the game they seemed to go away. I had a conversation at my game with a good friend of mine who knows a lot of football and has been around this game in this league for a long time. And he asked me my opinion of it. And I was in my hotel kind of doing prep, whatever. I was able to watch most of this game live and just kind of what I thought about all of it. And he's like, no emotion, like no personal feelings, anything like that. Just like what you have seen from it. What have you thought so far? And I didn't think that my response would make any sense. I'm not sure it'll make sense to you. I'm not sure it'll make sense to our listeners. But when I watch it, my initial thought and reaction, Greg, is I don't think they're good at football. And that doesn't mean that they're not good at running a play, or it doesn't mean that they can't throw, or guys can't run, or a certain guy can't block, or they can't tackle. But as we all know, football is the greatest team sport that there is. And that understanding of just wherewithal, like what you just stated, maybe some of it is just flat out stubbornness and hard-headedness, and that prevents them from being good at football. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying everyone on the team is a bad football player. I just don't think they know how to be good at football together. And it's exactly what you just said that brought me to that earlier, in that there becomes these lulls in the game that don't feel like that there's rhyme or reason for it. Of like the first play of the game. Okay, great. Build off that, and it doesn't have to be a boot right now. You just go for 13 yards or whatever it was. You hit that, you missed the twist and had the tight end down the seam again. Like, you don't come back to that again. And then, kind of some of the stuff like with Jarquez and, Hugh Freeze. We'll go ahead and play the audio. He was asked about Jarquez Hunter having 2 carries in the second half of the game, and this was his response.
I don't think he's banged up, but he did look gassed to me. But the second half was it just kind of, I can't remember how many possessions we had, but we didn't have many. And when we did, the last 2 for sure were we got to go. And so you're not handing them the ball in those circumstances. But other than that, I don't know that we had but 2 other possessions.
So I guess in following up with that, Greg, like in just being good at football and all of it in the game and the understanding and situational awareness, with what he means to the team and especially what he was last week, there can be no I think he was gassed. You literally ride him until he comes to you and says, I'm not physically capable of playing anymore. Like, I'm done. Like that, to me, that's where you are in the season, and that's really and truly where you were in that game. Because you were in a dogfight late at home against Vanderbilt, a place that school's never won a game before Saturday. And you needed your best players to potentially be out there making plays for you. And it didn't happen. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you or if that seems somewhat logical to you. But when I watch it collectively, that's what I feel like is they don't know how to be good at football together.
Here's my assessment. Okay. And I am not some play calling genius by any stretch. So take it from someone that's never called plays outside of playing video games. All right. But I do think I have a pretty good conceptual understanding of how I would call plays if I were in those shoes. I'll tell you what I wouldn't do. It feels like sometimes to me when I watch Auburn football, it feels like they have a checklist of 20 things that it's honestly like it's like, all right, we got to call that. We got to call that. And then they just check it off as they go down the list. Okay. Hey, that's right. We got to that one. Yep. Oh, yep. We did call the boot. Perfect. Yeah, I really like that pin and pull stretch that they have where they can kind of get to the edge, but it's really hit more off tackle. Perfect. Called that one. Like they called 20 different things that they just feel like they need to call for the sake of calling. But it's not artistry. You know what I mean? And I think it's not
That's the rhyme and reason I talked about. Like that's the building,
correct.
the foundation that has other layers and branches that have leaves, not just a tree trunk that you're throwing out there every game.
I'll tell you who I think, and this dates back to my offseason study this year was centered around Steve Sarkisian and Mike Norvell. I think those are the two best calling plays. Just head coaches that call plays. So I studied them this whole offseason. I watched every single offensive snap prior to Jordan Travis getting injured for Florida State last year, and I watched every single offensive snap of Steve Sarkisian last season as well. I wanted to watch them. I also watched Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer just because, one, I wanted to familiarize myself with Kalen DeBoer even a little bit more, but that just wasn't as much of a study. Like, I watched Mike Norvell to see how he does it, and I'll tell you how he does it. He has a run play, and he finds a formation that he likes, and he's kind of got a flavor of the week formation. And he'll throw maybe a bunch of different formations. And everyone's different, by the way. If you watch Steve Sarkisian, the first 15 or 20 plays of their game, they don't run the same formation 2 times in a row. Why? Because he wants to get a picture of how the defense will align to every single formation that they have in the game plan. All right? Mike Norvell is not that way. Mike Norvell might do it that way sometimes, but there are also some times, like against Clemson last year, where he ran 3-by-1, 3 receivers to one side, 1 receiver to the backside, every single snap of the game. Not one snap did they get in 2-by-2 or empty or anything else. They were 3-by-1 the whole game. Why? Because he loved the look he was getting, and it was predictable, and he knew what he was going to get off of it. So every single play that he runs, every run play, it all starts in the run game. He probably carries 12 to 15 runs into a game. Off those 12 to 15 runs, he has 8 to 10 play actions or RPOs off those runs. Off those RPOs, he has 6 to 8 bootlegs where it's the same run play, same looking run play, but now the quarterback's outside the pocket as opposed to inside the pocket. So 15 runs, 8 to 10 RPOs or play actions, 6 to 8 movement runs, movement throws, and then you have 5 to 6 screens off of those. And they're all married together. They're all connected. And it's amazing. All right, hey, they saw that one. Perfect. What's next on the list? All right, let's hit the RPO. Okay, we hit the RPO. What's next on the list? Okay, we'll do the screen off it now. Perfect. We'll do that. What's next on the list? Oh, screen. They're going to be rushing the quarterback and then just go the rush. Oh, boom. We'll roll them out this time. It's like there's 4 different variations to every run. And it's just, it's like an orchestra. He's like an artist. And I just don't see that very often when it's Auburn.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so Paul Finebaum going to be with us when we come back from break. Obviously, we'll get to your feedback throughout the course of today. Where is Auburn now? Where do they go next? All of that. At Mac and Cube, you can tweet in 800-239-9569. Tell you about Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. If you're looking for a new home, they have served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Gusty Goulas Group, recognized both nationally, locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold since 2012. You can trust his aggressive and proven selling system. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now on your phone, button at the top of the page. Press that button, very little information. Find out how much your home is worth and see what the Gusty Goulas Group can do for you. Over 830 5-star Google reviews brokered by eXp Realty. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com or call 205-542-1996 today to see what the Gusty Goulas Group can do for you. Back with Paul Finebaum next on Mac and Cube in the morning. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. He joins us each and every Monday thanks to our friends at Craneworks. It's Paul Finebaum.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Paul Finebaum on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Paul Finebaum.
Paul, always great to have you with us on a Monday morning. Auburn goes down to Vanderbilt over the weekend. It is the first time that has ever happened inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. Where are you on Coach Freeze as the Auburn head football coach, and what needs to happen, what will happen, and what do you make of the rest of this season?
Yeah, I'm completely underwhelmed by Hugh Freeze as Auburn's head football coach. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean very much in terms of this year. I think this year is essentially over, and now it's a matter of what he can do in the offseason, really immediately after the season, to shore this program up. A lot of people are optimistic. They talk to me and you and everyone else about how well he's done in recruiting, but ultimately I'd like to see it on the field, and I'm not about to take anything away from what Vanderbilt has done this year. But that's really hard-nosed coaching and really some tactical decisions in the offseason. And I'm still trying to figure out what Hugh Freeze has done other than try to blame everything on Brian Harsin.
When you look at just how the tenure's gone so far, and everyone wants to compare the record and everything to Brian Harsin, and I know I don't always believe that the record is reflective of where the program's at. I've seen a lot of bad teams that look great. Like South Carolina's record wasn't great, but they're pretty dang good now. So looking at just where the state of the Auburn program is and what the expectations were, how do you think the fan base feels right now with how things have gone?
Greg, I think they're mortified at the record, but there's a double edge to that where they're being sold this bill of goods by Hugh Freeze and his superiors, and I can only tell you what I experienced when I was down there a couple of weeks ago. All I was told was how bad the situation was, all the numbers that we've heard about what went out the window, but that happens at every program now, and to me it sounded then, and it sounds now like an excuse. I'd like to see, in-game decisions. I'd like to see things that make me feel confident about Hugh Freeze, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm not suggesting anything other than answering a question here. I think he has to be given some time, but how much time I think is really an open question. And at the rate that he's going, he'll begin next season on one of the hottest hot seats I have seen at Auburn or anywhere in a long time. And that can't be scraped away because he has thrown away every opportunity this year to turn this thing around. And at some point, fans will go, you know what, the direction of the program is just simply spiraling the wrong direction, and I don't believe that the fans are at that point yet, and I don't think they're going to be at that point over these next 5 weeks. But I think it's pretty obvious what type of target is on Hugh Freeze's back once the season ends and he begins next year.
Paul Finebaum joining us. He's with us every Monday. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Is there anything you need to see, want to see, have to see, would like to see the rest of this year? Does anything matter to you the rest of this season as far as what that staff does, what that team does?
Well, I think when you have two meaningful games against A&M and Alabama, yeah, you can always change the direction of things. We saw that a couple of years ago with Shane Beamer. I mean, he beat Tennessee and Clemson on successive weekends and nearly beat Notre Dame, and it felt like the program was blazing into the offseason. So yeah, I'm not to say pack it in and play walk-ons the rest of the way. That's not the point. Auburn fans will still be there for the remaining home games. But yeah, I'd like to see some good decisions made. I'd like to see some reason for optimism. And by the way, Cole, I'm sure I haven't heard what you said all day, but these are close games and a couple of plays here, but I've been hearing that now through every one of Auburn's 6 losses.
Paul, do you think that things could spiral into a scenario where he isn't back next year? Like, I have buddies who are like, we need to punt. I'm like, let's relax. All right. I mean, I think you're still paying Chiswick right now. I don't know if they are or not, but I know they're still paying Gus. I'm pretty sure. And I think I'm almost certain they're still paying Harsin. But is there a scenario where this gets bad enough where they feel like, all right, we made a bad decision and we have to go a different direction? Because to me, that would be ridiculous, but anything's possible at that place, as you know.
They may still be paying Terry Bowden for all we know. But Greg, I don't, and I say that because I don't sense it from the people that matter. This decision will not be made by a caller to your show or by somebody at the end of the bar. This decision will be made by people in high positions at Auburn, from the president, the athletic director, and most important, the 3 or 4 boosters who run that program. And I'll defer more heavily to Cole than me, but based on everything that I can ascertain, Hugh Freeze is not in trouble. But yeah, I don't. So the answer is no. I don't think so. No matter how bad it gets, and listen, it's very likely to get worse the rest of the way.
I don't think there's any doubt. Paul Finebaum with us. He joins us every Monday thanks to our friends at Craneworks. Let's spin ahead to this weekend based on kind of what we learned a little bit of last weekend. Ole Miss looks great against Arkansas. A&M obviously struggles a little bit against South Carolina. Georgia, not the cleanest game against Florida, but they do get a rivalry win, and you still are happy about that one. What did this weekend make you look most forward to coming up this next weekend in the SEC?
Well, I'm probably most intrigued by Ole Miss. Like Georgia, they're not a team you can depend on every week, but that was a fantastic performance. Jackson Dart across the board, especially when there was such nervousness about Trey Harris, and when we learned that he wouldn't be in the game right beforehand. I was with some people on our show who were going, no way, Ole Miss can win this game. But ultimately, to me, I think this is the biggest game of Lane Kiffin's career coming up. He's got a chance to come close to punching a ticket to the playoffs or letting it all slip away. I mean, you're going to hear that for this game. You're going to hear that for the game in Baton Rouge. But this is really about the opportunity for Ole Miss. And I know that there'll be skeptics about Georgia, but you said it. I mean, that is a rivalry game, and those things are never easy. And, Billy Napier has done a really good job of being competitive in every game down the stretch, and for that he deserves credit. Whether he deserves another year, I'll leave it to others. But to me, I'm really into the Ole Miss game, and obviously the Bama game. I mean, it speaks for itself. I don't think anything I offer in terms of the significance of it will be news to our listeners here this morning.
I don't anticipate anybody to, allow cooler heads to prevail. This is the Southeastern Conference, and this is football in the South. It's just the way things are. But for those fan bases that are struggling maybe with where their team is and for how their team has played, and knowing that humility is 1 week away, does it kind of give you some solace in watching a lot of teams that just really aren't very good? Like, do you think Penn State, had they played Alabama's schedule, would be sitting where they were sitting yesterday? Do you think Ohio State would only have 1 loss? Do you think, I'm just asking the question. I'm not suggesting that they would or wouldn't. I just think that the parity in the sport would probably have me as a fan feeling a little more optimistic, but it actually is quite the opposite. I feel like everyone's in panic mode and they think their team stinks.
No, I think, Greg, the schedule matters most. I watched Penn State, get by Illinois and go to overtime against Southern Cal. Those programs aren't doing much right now, especially Southern Cal with 5 losses. So I think your schedule really is the most important. This was the year of getting the right schedule. and who got that schedule, I think is going to play a major role in how far you go, and that's why I think we're harping on Auburn so much, because their schedule was not impossible. It was, I mean, everyone who got Vanderbilt when the schedule came out had to consider themselves fortunate, and that was an outlier. That didn't work out.
Paul Finebaum joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. He's with us every Monday, thanks to Craneworks. Who do you view as the favorite to win the SEC right now, Paul?
Well, I'm torn between Georgia and Texas, but I think I'm going to still side with Georgia. I think assuming that they get by this weekend, and I really don't know yet. I mean, that's a game I can't call on Monday. Then I think that they have the inside track, because they'll be sitting there waiting. I mean, the A&M loss really reverberated because it just changed the dynamics so much. But I'm staying with Georgia. I've been with them all along, and I mean, at times Georgia can really be frightening to watch, and I say that judging them on the highest possible scale, and Georgia to perfection as opposed to Georgia to what Auburn is doing. But as long as you can survive, that's what matters most. I mean, a lot of programs are going, well, we only have 4 more games. Well, if you're Georgia, you may have 7 or 8 more games. So just getting a win, as ugly as it may look, is all that matters.
Paul, we always appreciate the time. Always good visiting with you. Look forward to catching up with you next week. We'll see you in a couple hours.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Paul Finebaum joining us thanks to Craneworks. He's with us every Monday on the Buyers Right Hotline. So lots to kind of unpack there, a lot to discuss. We will do that and continue talking. Auburn's lost to Vanderbilt. But first, T-Mac, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services has been serving this community for a really long time, and they've always done an amazing job. And they continue to add areas of expertise to their arsenal of ways that they can help you. And if you go right now and call them, Polar Bear Services, they can help you with plumbing. They can help you with electrical. They can help you with your HVAC system that hopefully at some point the air conditioning will stop and the heater will work, because my goodness, these 80-degree days are awesome, but man, they certainly feel out of season for sure. Make sure your system is running smoothly and make sure you are prepared for the winter months ahead. Call them today for a system tune-up or for a repair. Serving all over Birmingham and all throughout the state. Remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
All right, back with more on Auburn's loss to Vanderbilt and the rest of the SEC right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It is 8:41 where I am, 7:41 where you guys are, and we're going to continue trying to talk SEC football. Paul Finebaum, anything that he said about Auburn that kind of took you off guard or that you found to be just shocking, surprising about Hugh Freeze, his tenure, his future, anything like that, G-Mac?
No, I don't feel like there is. The one thing that I would be cognizant of, the people that were really in charge of making sure that he was the guy. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, there are people that have tremendous financial investment in Hugh Freeze because they said, we don't want Brian Harsin anymore. We want Hugh Freeze. He's our guy. He's going to give us, keys to the kingdom. And as a result, he's going to become Auburn's head coach. So if this was not an athletic director made hire, right? This was the boosters and the people that run the show down there, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. That's not the problem. The problem is that group has a tendency to be remarkably fickle. And that group, if it's up to just a few decision makers, can change their mind in an instant. And Paul referenced them multiple times in several answers, saying that those guys are notoriously unpredictable. Now, I don't think Hugh Freeze is in trouble. I don't think he should be. I think it's ridiculous. He's stepped into a situation where he's trying to create alignment, trying to create unity between boosters, administration, head coach, all that stuff. And I feel like he's accurately done that. Now, it's just the results haven't necessarily worked. But I think there needs to be a real good evaluation, top to bottom, of what they're doing offensively in the future. And I don't know if that requires hiring a big time offensive coordinator. I don't know if that requires, going out and spending top dollar, and Hugh Freeze moves more into an administrative role, because I think that's what makes the most sense, maybe moving forward right now, because the offense, to me, it feels like it just lacks a certain level of continuity that you have to be successful in college football nowadays. And it just, I don't like what I'm seeing from a play calling standpoint right now across the board.
It's tough, man. And I know a lot of people are frustrated with it. A lot of people don't like how it's gone, don't like how it's looked, and just want something to be a little bit different. So either way, when we referenced earlier about what you want to see the rest of the season, G-Mac, is there anything that you feel like could satisfy Auburn fans, help Auburn fans? What do Auburn fans want to see the rest of the year?
I think that's the question. I mean, I think the Auburn fans probably want to see. I would bet, I don't know, I'm not an Auburn fan. I would want my team to keep playing hard. I would want my team to keep trying to win. Like, I'm not one that says, oh, yeah, let's just play all the freshmen and see what happens. Like, I don't believe in that. Because if the best player is on the sideline, what message does that send? I, for one, believe that you need to still try to win every game. And there are seasons to spoil coming up this year. I mean, you can ruin A&M season. You can ruin Alabama season. Like, there are seasons to spoil. So if I were an Auburn fan, I'd want to spoil those seasons. And if I go to a bowl game, great. If I don't, I don't. Who cares? But I want to go down swinging, and I want to try to win every game that's on the schedule right now.
Well, speaking of spoiling, you can do that if you go check out Bromberg's, G-Mac.
Yeah, Bromberg's is awesome. And I know that everyone that is listening to me that's been in that store before, they know that everything's a cut above. You know that everything just seems to just go according to plan at Bromberg's, because the sales staff elevates that experience beyond all measure. I was actually texting with a couple of the great salespeople at Bromberg's this weekend. They're constantly in touch, constantly giving me ideas. With the holiday season quickly approaching, I know there's only one place I'm going if I need to find something special for the people in my home. So I would highly recommend going and checking out Bromberg's. I know that's the only place I've shopped. I know that's the only place you should shop. And you can check them out in one of their 2 locations, in Mountain Brook Village or the Summit. You can also shop online at brombergs.com.
All right, we'll get to a break. When we come back, more Mac and Cube next on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7:50 a.m. Monday, November 4th, right here on Jocks 94.5. As we continue moving on, we'll get back into a lot of college football, Auburn situation, other couple of massive matchups over the weekend. Ole Miss looks great. Greg had A&M in South Carolina. We'll hit that one. Obviously, Georgia, Florida. We'll talk that one as well. But we get to our top three each and every day. Sometimes sports, not always. Damian, your top three NFL performances from over the weekend were?
Let's get you started out west with the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks in a loss. So this is kind of like bout it. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, 7 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, filling in for DK Metcalf as the Rams now go to 4-4 after defeating the Seattle Seahawks 26-20. Number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, Joe Burrow, goes 27-39, 251 yards and 5 touchdowns in a 41-24 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders ended up finding their offensive coordinator out of the game after the game, so we'll go with that. But the number one performance and one spectacular play from Eagles running back Saquon Barkley. He went 27 carries, 159 yards rushing, and a tutty. Also added 40 yards in receiving and a touchdown. But one play that will probably live forever, the brother did a backwards hurdle in the middle of the field. Like, I've never seen anything like that. We already knew the athletic ability that Saquon Barkley had, and the Eagles win 28-23 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Saquon is just ungodly. Like, it makes no sense. One, to have as much strength and awareness to even think about doing it, but to literally turn his back to a defender and jump. He's built different, man.
And he cleared with both feet.
It's one of the craziest plays I've ever
Giants
seen.
let him walk.
Like, it makes no sense. They ended up paying Daniel Jones, and they let that specimen go to your division rival, and then he's out here making plays like that.
Yeah, it was filthy. I don't know how you even have the awareness to do it or think that you're not going to get hurt when you do it, or, I mean, it's going to pull it off, and then he lands.
Exactly.
It was just like the most ridiculous part. It's just never seen anything like it in my life. Crazy.
And an honorable mention, Tony Pollard, running back for the Tennessee Titans, goes 28 for 128 and a victory for the Tennessee Titans over the New England Patriots, 20-17. That's the Titans' second win this season.
Yesterday was weird win day. I mean, you had the Titans actually win a game. The Panthers won a game. Sorry, John. But
I'm not. I told people it was going to happen. People don't want to listen to me. It's fine.
Anybody who had any confidence in the Panthers winning a game is a big surprise to me. I'm not sure anybody thought that would ever take place, but it did.
It was a weird one. It was a weird one. Josh Allen started off a little slow, but they ended up knocking off the Miami Dolphins, who I guess they're getting with the Tennessee Titans of who's going to get the number one overall pick this year.
No, I think Panthers probably still in the mix for that. Saints might not be far off either.
And Greg, what's wrong with your Dallas Cowboys, man?
Everybody's hurt.
We saw Dak on the sideline, right? I mean, I feel like he spelled it out pretty clear.
Pretty sure if everybody's hurt, it's hard to win.
Well,
I don't know what else to tell you.
How about your boy Kirk O'Chains, man? Z-Rob got him a dog out there, that old man Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, dude, they're balling.
But nah, I mean, for the Dallas though, Dak. It's crazy to see the leader of your franchise kind of mouth everything what the fans are saying and what people have been watching the Dallas Cowboys are saying. It's, yeah, we do agree.
It's kind of tough not to. So you forgot to point out that Derrick Henry went for 106 and 2 touchdowns.
It's just another day at the office for him. Yeah, we could pretty much just get a week by week basis on Derrick Henry.
Well, then why not?
It's painful to put it out there because I feel like he did this for 9 years at a certain location. But talk about Saquon, letting Saquon walk.
What did he do the last couple years?
Just put himself up as one of the best running backs in the game to ever breathe.
Okay, but what statistically was he as good the last couple years?
Yeah, he still had over 1,000 yards in the 1 year that he didn't. It was only because he hurt his foot, and that was 8 games into the season. He had over 900.
So why did they let him walk?
Your guess is as good as mine. We believed in a.
I really don't know. I don't really follow Titans. Shockingly, most people in the world, I don't follow the Titans.
We changed ownership, and Rand Carthon was like, "Hey, man, I think we're going to transition to more of a spread offense." And we brought in D-Hop, brought in Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, and we're thinking, okay, we're going to air this thing out. Yeah, and then we had Will Levis.
No, you didn't have.
You chose. Some of the guys you're bringing in. I'm just giving you more guys you brought in.
Yeah, we did.
To go spread.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel like we could have just
There wasn't enough tread left on the tire, Greg.
I just don't know. I honestly don't know.
No, we made managerial decisions, man, and they were like, hey, we might as well go with the future in a quarterback that has shown that he cannot be a starter in the NFL and let one of the best, if not the best running back in the league just walk out. But it's all good, man. He gave us a farewell speech.
Yeah, why would you want a running back that can carry it 50 times a game for a quarterback? That'd be ridiculous.
You ain't telling me something that I wasn't already, saying all the way through. But
I think
why'd the Cowboys pass on him then?
Chestnut.
Because
there had to have been something because the Cowboys passed on him too.
Jerry Jones said that he's gonna work with what he's got. He's like, hey, we let Tony Pollard leave.
Zeke Elliott was going to be out there again.
Exactly.
Oh, about that.
The reunion. A healthy scratch, by the way, yesterday.
All right, tonight you get Bucks at Chiefs, 7:15, ESPN and ABC. Bucks are 4-4. Chiefs are 7-0 on the year. And we'll talk more NFL during our top three tomorrow. A lot more college football to get to today. Have not even gotten into Tennessee's win over Kentucky, Georgia's win against Florida. Are the concerns with Carson Beck real? How real could they be for the rest of the season? How real could they be against an Ole Miss defense that looked really good over the weekend? We'll discuss all of those and nationally a couple big surprises in college football over the weekend. Keep it locked for the next 2 hours right here on Jocks 94.5. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Monday, November the 4th, 8 a.m. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android, can always grab it there. We've talked a lot about Auburn's loss to Vanderbilt. Tigers go to 3-6 on the season. What do you want to see from Auburn the rest of the year? 800-239-9569. You can also text into the show, 205-834-9450. Vanderbilt goes to 6-3 on the year, and when you look what's ahead, there were some folks like 2 weeks ago, Greg, that were saying, bowl eligibility is still going to be tough. I was thinking to myself, man, there's not a team left on the schedule that they couldn't get. Not saying they're going to get all of them. South Carolina going to be a handful at home this weekend. That's actually going to be a good game. I'm actually pretty excited about that game. You think about those edge defenders, that D-line that was dominant that you just saw, but then how that scheme can sort of manipulate them a little bit. That should be fun to watch. And then LSU, if they can play keep away against that group, that's a defense that has a lot of momentum. You can get them out of position a lot. And then obviously Tennessee, you're just going to have to minimize what they do on offense. I imagine they'll play similar style to what they did at Missouri and just kind of keep everything underneath, see if they can limit the explosives, try to play maybe lighter in the box, which that they did that at times against Auburn. So I don't think they're done yet. I think this Vanderbilt team could add another win or two, no doubt.
Would not surprise me. I think that this Vanderbilt team's really good, and I've been saying it for weeks, and nobody wanted to listen. When Bama lost to them, nobody wanted to listen. And we tried to tell you, like, this is a good football team. And losing that game is, while disappointing, it's not like it was shocking. They got outplayed, and they went up against a good squad. I mean, Vandy's good. How many times have we had to say that the last couple weeks? I mean,
it's not, and here's the thing, it's not just Diego Pavia. I mean, Cedric Alexander, really good back. Eli Stowers is turning into one of the better tight ends in all of college football. Defensively, they know the scheme, they know the structure, veteran safeties, defensive linemen, linebackers that know the scheme, where to be. They're not out of position a lot. They play hard. They're going to be a tough out for everybody the rest of the way through. So I'm with you. I agree 100%. Also, you should all agree that Train is who you need to be in touch with once the weather begins to cool off. Protect your HVAC system with a checkup from a Train comfort specialist. So when cold weather hits, you'll have peace of mind that you're protected by America's most reliable and trusted HVAC brand. Find a comfort specialist near you at Train.com. And remember, it's hard to stop a train. Speaking of Tennessee, they knocked off Kentucky 28-18 over the weekend. It was not a real clean game to watch, especially early. Both teams came out a little bit sloppy, physical game. From that perspective, it was kind of fun to watch. And then Tennessee kind of began to lean a little bit late on a team that is really beat up. And you had 8 starters out for this Kentucky football team. De'Aaron Jackson out at linebacker, J.J. Weaver out at edge, Gerald Mincey's out at tackle. You're starting a freshman tackle against that defensive front, which is just not good. Then you got Dane Key goes down in game, so that was obviously a problem. And then later in the game, Brock Vandegrift gets a head injury. He leaves the game. So it's a mash unit for Mark Stoops right now. And they sit here at 3-6. And they've got some soul searching to do. But I'll say this. We wondered the last 2 weeks, Greg, about Kentucky and said that defense did not look like what we're used to seeing from Brad White or a Mark Stoops coach football team. They showed up. They played their rear end. They had 3 reserve DBs available in this game, by the way. 3 total. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they had. 3 reserve defensive backs. And they lost Zion Childress for a little while in game. And they're over there making him run up and down the field.
Did he ever end up coming back?
He came back in, yeah. I did a hit on it because he was literally yelling at the trainers to let him go back in the game. Like he was.
I love that kid.
He was. Oh, dude, he's a warrior. I'll take 11 of him every day. I mean, he's sitting there. Greg, they had him setting the edge in the red zone. Like he's taking on pullers in the red. Guys, this is a safety if you don't know who he is. And so, I mean, they had a couple different guys doing different things. Davin Rayner had to play down and play some jack linebacker. Obviously, Alex Afari's playing linebacker now. He's a former safety that's played a little linebacker this year, but not used to it full time. So they had a lot of guys doing a lot of different things, but they brought the effort, and I'll give them a lot of credit for that. Stoops had his team ready to play, even being down and shorthanded. But Tennessee was able to just lean on them late. Tennessee had some throws. I mean, dropped a touchdown down the sideline in the end zone, tight end, catches one in the end zone, gets hit, it pops out. They had plays, and I just think the whole starting slow thing is, I think people are making a little bit too much about it. I think they're getting really weird, really different looks, and it's taking a younger quarterback a little bit of time. It takes time to figure that stuff out. I mean, you got to go see what it is, figure it out, make your adjustments, and I'm not overly concerned about that part of this team. I do think they're an offense that's operating in a little bit of a greedy manner right now. That'd be the way that I would describe it. I think there's a lot of freebies that are there that they're not taking. And there could come a point in time when you need those free yards because the team's going to be more talented or better than you, and you better take what they're giving you, or it might not be enough. So But there's a lot to like about Tennessee right now, man. That defensive line, offensive line's as healthy as they've been. And obviously we know what Dylan Sampson is. Like, he's dynamic. So feeling pretty good about Tennessee down this home stretch. Don't know about you based on what you saw.
You know, I like Tennessee. I mean, I like their defense. I think they can defend. I don't think they're immune to getting beat by a team that isn't as good as them. We've already seen that a little bit from Arkansas. I think the Vanderbilt game's interesting. I think Tennessee should be pretty relieved that there are a couple teams that are not on their schedule. I do not think Tennessee would match up very well against a team like South Carolina, their offense against South Carolina's defense, because of how they can disrupt and how physical they can get. So I personally like Tennessee quite a bit. I just think that there's a few things that will need to get ironed out as they move forward. And some of that is don't waste possessions. That's my biggest frustration. I just feel like they waste possessions a lot. And I wish that was something that they didn't, because they're so cognizant about getting a big play, and I'm all for that. But man alive, sometimes I wish sometimes they would just be a tiniest bit more methodical and not be so big play dependent and not be so obsessed with trying to manufacture deep balls. Sometimes I just wish they could be a little bit more, all right, yeah, we'll take that 6-7 yard play. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's kind of the greedy nature that I referenced. And it's just, it's like we do like a little read and react hit after halftime, and I did two protection breakdowns, both slide protection, obviously. Which it was an all-time bad weekend for slide protection. I don't know if you noticed it or not. Arkansas, holy mother. Tennessee, bad. Kentucky, lost a couple, bad. Auburn, bad. I mean, it was all over the place. Teams trying to slide these protections. I had a long conversation with Eric Wolford and Drake Jackson. We were arguing about when you do it, when you don't do it, how to do it, how protections are just not even being taught anymore. We'll do that in the off season one day. But anyway, just something that I noticed at multiple places. But it's there are definitely some things they can clean up. Definitely some things about Tennessee that I think if they can continue to kind of shore up, they may be a real dangerous team come playoff time if they correct some of the things you're talking about. But I agree with you on those possessions, and it feels like a little bit of greed that sets in offensively. But at the same time, I loved how Brad White described this to us. He said, and if you guys don't know, Brad White's Kentucky's defensive coordinator. He's fantastic. He's like, listen, man, he goes, this is like when you watch you go to a game and you're playing against a great power hitter. He's like, you're going to get hits. Like, they're going to hit pitches. He's like, and when they hit them down the line, he's like, a lot of times you're just kind of like, you're leaning in, looking over, going, foul, 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 foul. Oh, gone. He's like, you're just hoping that the home runs sometimes go foul. He's like, that's because there's going to be so many of them, and you're going to get left in one-on-ones every now and then. Like, you hope they throw some foul balls. And he's thrown a couple foul balls. He's thrown a couple home runs. But if he gets to where, that percentage leans a little bit more home run than foul ball down the road, they're going to be tough on just about anybody. So, speaking of Kentucky, Damian, we've got some Kentucky fans on the text line. 205-834-9450, by the way, if you want to text into the show.
Yeah, Stephen from Lexington, he says, can you explain to me what's wrong with the UK offense? It's like they just give up. A lot of people up here in Lexington are frustrated and have hung up their hat for the season. To me, if you are a real Cats fan, it just seems wrong. Go Cats.
All right. Yeah, the give up thing, I would say absolutely not. I mean, you're running the football in this game. Like, you had some success on the ground. That was one of the things that they told us they needed to do is be physical early. They needed to show up physically. You're starting a freshman tackle against James Pierce in obvious pass downs later in the game. That ain't going to go well for anybody. I'm just letting you know. Greg, I think we have learned that Brock Vandagriff is just limited. And maybe you didn't think it was going to be as limited. Maybe it's more limited than you thought. He also hasn't been healthy most of the year, so the run dynamic hasn't been what you wanted to really make it. But I think Bush Hamden's been kind of just trying to sort of mold this piece of clay to what works for the quarterback, yet what he calls and likes. And it's been tough to sort of figure it out. The lack of explosives with the receivers you have is always going to be a question mark for me, but I definitely don't think that this is, shutting it down, quitting, or a lack of effort. I haven't seen that from this group.
No, not at all. I just think they're limited from a skill set standpoint. Their offensive line isn't good. So if you have a below average offensive line and your identity is to run the football, it's not usually a very good recipe for success.
It's not going to be great. I know that.
So that's the problem. I mean, we can make it out all we want to all these certain things. Like I think there's a real chance that they just don't. Their style of play is going to be challenging in today's day and age without great personnel up front, and that is the issue.
It's going to be a problem if that's the case for your football team. 205-834-9450. You can text in. Next segment, if you want to get in, 800-239-9569. You can hit us up, Buyers Right Hotline. We can talk Tennessee, Kentucky. We can talk a little bit of Auburn, Vanderbilt. But Tennessee gets that win, 28-18. They're 7-1. Kentucky's now 3-6. Jamarian Wilcox, they had the run game going early, 17 for 102. They had some of the gap scheme stuff going, used the aggressiveness against that Tennessee defensive line. They were able to pop a couple. But it feels like there's almost no drop back game. It has to be sprint out. It has to be quick game, screen. It's just that there's no traditional drop back game. Like you said, Greg, because the offensive line has not been great at picking up a lot of the protections. This also a really good defensive line you're playing against. So that's going to be problematic either way. Then there's been drops. Then there's been letdowns by the tight ends. It's one of those deals kind of similar to Auburn where you can find something on almost every play that's causing you the opportunity to move the football.
Yeah, and that has got to be really tough, I would think, because I don't really understand some of the stop and start nature of it, though. I mean, there's some times where I look at it, I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. This isn't too concerning. But at the same time, man, there's also times where it doesn't look like they can move the ball at all. Like, I have no faith in them being able to create yards and separation and manufacture big plays and block them long enough to create big plays and all this other stuff. So that, I think, is a little bit challenging to watch and a little bit frustrating to watch from time to time, because there's been times when I've watched them where it's like, all right, I like what I see. And there's other times like, what the heck is that? You know what I mean? I do think sometimes they're a touch too conservative too. Do you feel like that a little bit sometimes as well?
Once again, you have Barryon Brown and Dane Key, and you're not those two. I mean, where would you, if you were an offensive coordinator and you had those two guys, what would your number be? I've talked to different coordinators about this over the years, and it's been like 5 or 8 or 3 apiece. Like, what would your minimum shot play be per game if you had those two guys at wide receiver? Like 2 apiece?
Can I be assured that they'll catch it?
No, you can't, but you're going to at least throw it to make the defense respect it, right? I mean, don't you at least want to keep your safeties backing over? Like, we're going to at least present to you that we will try to do that. And by God, if they don't catch it, that's on them. But then they can't go to another team and say, we're not getting our chances. They don't throw me not enough targets. Well, we got you the ball, buddy. You dropped it. And at least we're going to make the defenders respect it. And I'm with you on that. I've wondered all year where the shot plays were. Now, I'll auto-correct myself based on what I just said. Shot plays take time. And so, I mean, they've been the masters of attempting max protection this year. That has not really worked out. I mean, they've had 2 tight ends, a running back, and a tight end in. I mean, they'll max it up. And a lot of times it doesn't really matter. But that is one thing that has surprised me, is that you've got to find a way to at least try it down the field when you've got guys that can run like that.
Right. I think I'm fine with trying it down the field. It doesn't bother me as much. I mean, think about, why did they win the Ole Miss game? Obviously, their defensive performance, but they hit a deep ball. That's why they won the Ole Miss game. It won them the game. It's not like it was some reckless deep ball either. It was just a straight go ball. There's really nothing to it.
That's like the one they threw to Macklin, and he one-hands it there in the end zone. I mean, that was just a go ball, right? Like, just run down the sideline and we'll throw it to you.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, I just don't understand. For the life of me, I will never understand why there isn't a scenario where you have, I don't know. I know they can't block them, and I know that's irritating. And I think when you look at it, where I'd love to try to dial something up from a creative standpoint, but you're probably not going to get a ton of man with Wimsett in the game. You're probably not going to get a ton of man with Vandegrift in the game because both can use their legs. You're probably going to get some zone, but there's going to be teams that are going to play you man because they don't think you'll throw it. So I would just probably throw it. I just think Bush, I don't know what's going on with the OC, but Bush to me is a good coach. I do. I don't have a problem with Bush. But I do have a problem with how often they are trying to dink and dunk and they're trying to work the middle and all this other stuff. But Vandegrift, he doesn't have a huge arm. He can't just drive it sometimes between multiple defenders. You can't just do this and you can't just do that. There's just some things that are somewhat irritating to me about their refusal to marry up play action and to go back to the defense play action. I'd like to see him get under center more often. Like, there's just things that irritate me about what they try to be.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because I had this sort of premonition. Everybody always asks, like, what's wrong with offensive line play, right? Like, why are O-lines terrible? Why can't O-lines do this and that? I told you that I had a long conversation with Drake Jackson, former Kentucky center, who's a really good college player. Is going to be a great coach one day. We're just talking different things for the game. And I had this like O-line premonition that I think is also applicable to a lot of college offensive problems right now. And I wanted to run it by you, and I think this would be the perfect time to do it. So I'll do that on the other side. Before we do that, I'll tell you about your CBD store. If you need better sleep, your CBD store can help. They have products that help you with that. Better focus throughout the course of the day. They have products that can help you with that as well. Your CBD store, first company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They have the stamp seal on those products at the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer in the world. Arthritis, anxiety for you or your pet, they can help. They have those products for you at your CBD store. 3 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trussville just off 459 as well. Your CBD store where good health hits home. I'm going to ask Greg this question when we come back, and I'm going to give him the break to think about it. There's a lot of struggling with the quarterback position at different levels. Offensive line play down. Offenses, some that we thought were going to be really good, have not been as good. Are we trying to do too much in today's world of offensive football? We'll discuss that next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Jocks 94.5, Sports Radio 740 in Montgomery. Talk Radio 730, 103.9 FM, The Ump in Huntsville. You can watch live on YouTube, search Jocks 945. Check us out each and every morning there. And the app is in your app store. iPhone, Android, you can always download that for free. All right, so I mentioned just kind of offensive football. And one of the things that Drake Jackson and I were talking about, Greg, was just like protection and offenses and where things are headed. And we were talking about just different things pre-snap. And it kind of got me thinking, people talk about the development of offensive line play. Why is it down? Why are they struggling? And we started talking about, obviously, playing in Neyland and how it's going to be tough and you have to vary the snap count. Well, you don't even have a snap count. And then I went to the conversation that you and I had about Alabama and Parker Brailsford and how it felt like it was the same cadence every time they dropped back. And how as a center, you have to vary that. And, sometimes it depends on, how you manage things as an offense or, your quarterback does or what you guys do personally. And then we start talking about like things before the snap. And it got me thinking about how now we have these helmet communications. So all these coordinators want to be perfect, right? They want the perfect play call. So they're going to look over and they're going to get their change and they're going to talk to them and they're going to tell them they want to go do this. And so the center comes up to the line of scrimmage, right? And we look at the front and we identify a Mike linebacker and we set our blocking scheme and we call out, which direction is going to be hot, whatever it is. Well, then what happens with most offenses now? The tight end goes from one side to the other side. And then the receiver goes from out wide and goes into the backfield. And then they put the back out wide and flex him into the slot. So you got all this movement, all of these motions, all these shifts, all these trades. And guess what's left when you're done with all that? Probably not much time on the play clock, right?
Not much.
So, not much. And it got me thinking, like, are we just trying to do too much? And going back to what you said about Jim Tressel in the first segment of the show, and it's one of the things that I have certain respect for a lot of guys, like specifically Sark. We're going to have Sark on Read and React tonight. It's one of the things I'm going to ask him about is call it and run it. Like, why is it important to just have a call it and run it occasionally where you come up to the line of scrimmage and, hell, you might not even have a green or a gold option where run to the right, run to the left. Like, you can vary your snap count and say which way to run it. Like, it is inside zone to the right. I don't care if they have 4 guys lined up in the right A gap. We are just going to run that play right now. Just so people can settle in, can get comfortable, can see, can observe, can feel. I don't feel like we get much of that this day and age. It's either lightning fast, run the same thing over and over with a tag to do something else, or come to the line of scrimmage and literally have a geometry test before every snap. Are we doing too much is my question for you.
I think offensive coordinators just get praised so much for their creativity. I mean, I think there's but look, we just had a long conversation about Kentucky's offensive coordinator. Like, they don't do that much, and we're killing them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that there is certainly a challenge as it relates to the assessment of guys that are creative. But it really comes down to personnel. Like, I look at this sometimes, too, and I don't know if you've watched Penn State, Ohio State yet, but you will.
I'll watch it tonight. That's usually on my list of things when on the way home.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good tape, solid. But if you really look at it and everyone's like, well, why can't we be great offensively? Penn State, we'll go and hire Andy Kotelnicki. He really might be one of the most creative play callers in the country. So they go and hire Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas, and he's going to be the one that just upstarts our offense, and we're going to now be super creative. We're going to create all these big plays, and awesome. Look forward to watching it. And then push comes to shove, and they're playing Ohio State, and you look at their receivers, and they don't have an inch of separation. Not 1 inch of separation anywhere. They can't get open. Like, it really comes down to all this stuff. Like, you can be all this creative. It doesn't really matter. If Sark had dudes that couldn't run and couldn't create, guess what? He's not a very good OC. It's as simple as that. You can have the best plays ever. But if you don't have guys that can throw it, catch it, run it, create separation, you don't have anything. And I hate that that's the way things are, but it is. That's just the way things are. And I don't really know why that is, but it's unfortunate. It really is. There's only so much you can do with your plays. You can call the perfect play at the perfect time. And guess what? One great defensive player, one great cover guy can knock it down, and all that creativity and time spent burning chalk on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday as you put the plan in it's all for naught.
I just feel like we have, and you visit with these guys like I do each and every week. Every single year, the last 4 or 5 years, I hear more and more of, as the season goes on, dumb it down, subtract, only do this, limit this, can't do that, had to throw this out, as opposed to starting the opposite way and saying, yeah, you know what, the last few weeks we've been able to put this and this and this in. Well, now we're to where we can get to this and this. You know, we couldn't do this at the beginning of the year, but we're getting here, 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 and here, and we're able to add this now and do this. Instead of, well, we had to throw that out because we can't do it. We can't do that anymore. We had to take this out. We really have to dumb it down for this guy. And we really have to limit because of what we can handle here. Instead of let's put in our core, whatever it is, 5-6 runs, 3-4 protections, 2-3 screens. Let's get really good at those, and then we'll start building all that other stuff as the season goes on. And the more I thought about it this weekend after I had that conversation before the game, it just kind of got me thinking, like, well, I love motions and shifts. Like, I love all the stuff Sark does pre-snap. Like, I love Andy Ludwig's offense. And it annoys the hell out of people when they watch it because it's just like, come on, man, snap the ball. But I don't know what it does for you, and I know the advantages that it gives you from a numbers perspective or showing you coverage or getting guys misaligned or whatever it is. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I think when he does all that stuff, and listen, he just got run at Utah, so it's not like he's the best ever, but I respect a lot of what he does. I think when you do all that stuff, but then you're just running sort of your base offense, it's great. It's when you're trying to run everything, and then on top of that, you're also trying to do all this other stuff. I do think that's a little bit of Kentucky's issue is, you know, Bush has a lot of stuff he can run, and he's good at it. He's a good coach. He's a good play caller.
No question.
I don't know if there was a baseline that was set, and this is probably tough too for Kentucky because they've had to hit the reset button multiple times in the last few years, both on quarterback and coordinator. So that's always going to complicate it. I guess that's the other part, Greg, that we should talk about at some point is, I mean, how many guys have year 3 with a coordinator? And you can speak to the value of that. I can speak to the value of that. I mean, how many guys are sitting out there and being like, I mean, we've heard Jason Campbell talk about this, right? What do you have, like 9 different coordinators in 10 years of football or something? It's like, how many guys are just sitting there going, because it's like Quinn Ewers told me before the Mississippi State game. He's like, the thing that you need to understand, he's like, year 2, the growth is exponential in this offense. He's like, you're not going to know it year 1. Year 2, your growth takes off, and he's like, in year 3, it's like, yes, got it. Here we go. Now we're sailing. How many guys out there even have that this day and age? Carson Beck?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. How many? Let's just go SEC quarterbacks. How many are on year 3 of their coordinator?
Oh man, year 3 you'd have. Well, Rob Sale.
They just played a kid from Yale that couldn't start at Yale. So
tough situation.
I'm talking about quarterback with coordinator, though.
Correct.
Like,
I guess
okay,
you
so
could.
Nussmeier
do
would be
we
a
dare
no?
count Nussmeier because Sloan wasn't the OC? But
I mean,
he was heavily involved. But it's. I mean, you can't count it. I mean, by the letter of the law, you can't count it.
Dart, Pavia, Brady Cook, and that might be
no,
it.
because Kirby Moore. This is year 3 for Kirby Moore. Year 2. This is year 2 for Kirby Moore.
You might be right.
Right?
Yeah. I would say that's close though. I mean, it's
that's
the same
close.
sort
Yeah,
of
it's
family,
close.
At least
it's close. Gosh, I mean that's probably about it though, right? I mean, Bobo's is year 2. He was on staff, but year 2.
Yeah, close.
Carson's only started 2 years anyways. But not many. And it does take time. Like, but then again, dude, like I had 3 different coordinators in 3 years. Like, it's not like it's like that uncommon nowadays. It's just
Okay, but
my
you also
problem
had
is
you also had a head coach that kept all the terminology the same.
yeah, but the terminology is Shermanology. Like, who cares? Like, figure it out. Don't be dumb. How's that sound?
That's why the greatest coach of all time made it an emphasis to keep the same terminology because it didn't matter.
The reason why he made it is because he didn't want to relearn it. He'll tell you that too. He's like, I got enough on my plate. If you think I'm gonna learn your language, nah, it ain't happening. Like my big thing about the offenses is I think there's such an emphasis to throw and catch. There's such an emphasis to to create advantage in the passing attack. But passing attacks mano-a-mano, man. Like, it's getting more and more NFL. Like, all right, I'm going to find a matchup, and I'm going to like that matchup, and guess what? In the NFL, it's all about matchups. Like, I'm going to create however many favorable matchups as I can with my best receiver against their worst cover guy. And I don't feel like we do that as much in college football. You know why? Because coaches want to run their systems. Like, NFL is matchup based. College football is system based. And that's a big difference. It's very, very big difference. And those that can run their system by creating matchups a la Sarkisian are the masters. But there's a lot of coaches that say, no, we do what we do. I'm an RPO guy to my core, and I believe in that, and that's what I believe. That's what got me here, and that's what I'm going to do. Come hell or high water, I don't care. And or I'm an outside zone guy, I'm an outside zone guy. Well, it doesn't matter if my back's 250 pounds. Like, I'm running outside zone. That's what I do. I got this job because of it. Like that, it's just, I think we're way too focused on systems in college football and not on personnel. And look, if you don't have personnel, it is what it is. But if you look at how Andy Kotelnicki, the best, most creative offensive coordinator in the world, according to Joel Klatt, if he coached for Kentucky, he'd be just another guy in Joel Klatt's mind. But since he's at Penn State, he's the GOAT, most creative ever. And I don't see him not one time try to scheme up a route for Tyler Warren. Not one time did they try to scheme him up by building a bunch or building a stack or putting him in the move or starting him maybe in the backfield and motioning him out. Like, none of that happened the entire game. Why? I don't know. But because probably we're system based, and I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, get to a break, come back. Matt Moscano begins to preview Alabama and LSU. It's so big, we got to get an early start on it. That's next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Going to get to Matt Moscona, who does radio in Louisiana. Talk LSU, Alabama here in just a moment. First, before we move on to Matt at 8:38 a.m. Monday, November 4th, G-Mac, tell our listeners if they're looking to move, who they need to call.
Be Crocker Moving Service, a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up, move your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange a living room, these guys got you covered. They also deliver for furniture that you purchase and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, Matt Moscona joining us now on the Buyers Right Hotline, does radio all over Louisiana except for New Orleans currently, which is not happening, but apparently will happen again one day soon. All right, so we know what this game is. We know what this game means. It's big enough to where we need to start talking about it on Monday, where we haven't even reviewed all the games from this past weekend. But coming off a bye, what needs to be most different for LSU when they meet Alabama Saturday night to have an opportunity to win?
You better stop running quarterback better than you did against Texas A&M. Such a weird contrast week to week because LSU went to Arkansas and took on Taylor Green and Quinton Jackson. Those guys held them to 38 rushing yards. They go to College Station, and when Mike Elko made the switch mid-game from Connor Wegman to Marcel Reed, it was like LSU didn't even know conceptually the quarterback was allowed to run. It was one of the most bizarre about faces I can remember in a long time of covering this team. And it cost them their mulligan. And look, Milroe last year, we all know, ran for 4 touchdowns against LSU. It was his feet that beat him in Tuscaloosa. So they better spend the bulk of these 2 weeks getting ready to stop Jalen Milroe from running the football, or that defense will have a long night.
Yeah, is there reason to believe that's something that can get fixed or addressed?
Yeah, I mean, Greg, I think so, because we saw him do it against Arkansas. It was just so strange. It was so strange to see what happened against Texas A&M, because literally a week before they had done it and done it beautifully. And so, guys, I mean, I didn't play at a high enough level to know, like, in game, is that something easy to pivot where you can just say, hey, we're going to run the same defense we did last week against Texas A&M or against Arkansas that worked so well, but they were unable to do it. But when they knew they were going to face Taylor Green and Quinton Jackson in Arkansas, they were ready for it, they prepared for it, and they executed really well. I guess if there's one reason for optimism, it's that when Blake Baker has had a plan so far this year, this defense has executed at a much higher level than they did a year ago. But also if you're leery because of what you saw against Texas A&M, you're right to be, because I think Jalen Milroe is a much better runner and certainly a much more experienced player than Marcel Reed was.
Matt Moscona does radio in Baton Rouge, all over Louisiana, covers LSU, joining us now on the Buyers Right Hotline. I said Saturday night after our game, we do a little sit down and we talk about the games of the day and go towards next week. And Jordan and Tom started talking about Alabama and LSU. I said, I'll just make this easy for you guys if you want me to. Now, I did get the colors of the jerseys reversed. I was confused. I didn't think it out right, but the way that I should have. And essentially, I just said, Garrett Nussmeier, don't throw the ball to the guys in white jerseys. Should have said crimson, obviously, because LSU will wear white at home. That was my mistake. Because you can either be Arkansas and you can drop 3 of those balls that he throws to you, or you can be A&M and catch 3 of those balls, and one will lose the game and one will win the game. Could this game be that easy for you? And do you see that part of his game being able to be changed the rest of the way through this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting with Nussmeier because, I mean, guys, I remember we talked in the summer, and that was the singular question about Nussmeier. It is like the way that I said it, and I said this to every single show I did at Media Days or anywhere. If you go to Central Casting, you pick out a quarterback, it probably looks like Garrett Nussmeier. Good strength, good size, arm strength, son of a coach, football IQ. He's got everything you want. He's got everything you want, except at times he will be careless with the football. We saw it in fall camp. I mean, Brian Kelly let us watch scrimmages. We watched full practices. We'd see these 11-on-11 periods where offense would go right down the field, 65 yards and 4 plays, boom, 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 and then also throw a pick at the goal line. It's like that is rooted somewhere in him. But mostly this season, he has been really, really good. I mean, he is the reason they are where they are because largely they've been unable to run the ball, and he's had to do everything, and he has. But when you have a situation like you had in the second half against Texas A&M, it's crippling because this team hasn't shown an ability to consistently run the football, and so they need Nussmeier to be great. And he has been for the majority of the season. But when he's not, you saw what happened in that second half against Texas A&M. So can he be? Yes, because he has been most of the year. But there is that lingering question in the back of what happens when he is careless and makes those mistakes.
What do you make of just the defensive progress in general? I'm not necessarily saying that. I know we talked a little bit about quarterback run, but it does feel like they're playing better defense in general. I know maybe it's not reflective of the score in some cases, but I am feeling better about where Blake Baker's got this team heading. So how do you feel about that?
Absolutely, Greg. I mean, like context matters. Last year, LSU defensively fielded the worst defense in the history of the program. That is a mouthful. That is not hyperbole, but statistically, that was the worst defense in the history of LSU football. Like, it's uncanny. So yes, with largely the same group of players, to have a defense right now that held Ole Miss scoreless in the second half and overtime, a defense that held Arkansas scoreless in the second half. I mean, yes, a defense that had played so well for a half and a quarter against Texas A&M that they literally had to bench their quarterback. I mean, I'm not telling you these are the 85 Bears or like the 2011 LSU defense or anything like that, but they are certainly competent enough to complement a good offense to help this team win football games. And guys, it's basically with all the same players of a year ago. It's not like they went into the portal and went ham. I mean, they added Jordan Gilbert at safety from Texas A&M, who's a nice player. They added Gio Paez, a defensive tackle from Wisconsin, who was basically a rotational guy up there who's starting for him. That's kind of it. I mean, it's all the same guys from a season ago, just playing more competent football. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone here is over the moon about the job Blake Baker's done because it has been a dramatic improvement year to year with basically the same players.
Did you guys know that Brady Swinson was going to be this kind of dude? Like, I don't really recall like his recruiting or anything like that, or what, you know, if he was like super 5-star coming out, I don't know. And I know he flashed a little bit last year, but like I don't feel like he gets enough credit for just what all he's capable of doing.
Yeah, he transferred in from Oregon. So I don't know a lot about what his recruitment was like and what he was like at Oregon, but last year he was good. Like, you're right, he flashed. It was just everything that was good on last year's defense was completely muted because the defense was so atrocious. Like, we talk all about what happened with Harold Perkins. Perkins a year ago had double-digit TFLs, had the same number of sacks as his freshman year. I mean, was a really impactful guy. It's just they were atrocious defensively, so no one paid attention to it. Swinson's good. I mean, coming into this year, if you would ask me what's the one strength on LSU's defense, I would have told you it was defensive end with Swinson and with Savion Jones as well. They got some really good, young, talented players at that spot as well coming up behind him. But Braden Swinson's got a chance to break Arden Key's single-season sack record at LSU, which is a mouthful. But he's been fantastic this year. I don't know that I expected that, but and like an All-America caliber player, certainly an All-Conference caliber player. But yeah, I mean, I think you knew you had a really good player at that position.
I don't know what the bigger mouthful is there, that he can break the single-season sack record or that Arden Key has the single-season sack record. Nothing against Arden Key at all, but it's just, of all the greats that we've seen there, it feels weird that he's the one that has more sacks than anybody else. It's just kind of wild. So, but he had a great year.
Dude, Arden Key in 20. Remember, Arden Key,
he's great.
Arden Key in 2016 was a monster. Yeah,
he was great, absolutely. But it just, we could run through a laundry list of guys who have been incredible playing on that defensive line. So, Matt, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time. Fun already getting a head start on this game, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, guys. Have a good week. There
you go. Matt Moscona joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Does radio all across the state of Louisiana and covers the LSU Tigers. Getting a little sneak peek on that game coming up this weekend because it's obviously going to be important and it's obviously going to be massive. We will get to a break, come back on the other side, continue talking some college football from over the weekend next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Spend just another moment on this one, G-Mac, at 8:51 a.m. Monday, November 4th. Looking ahead to next weekend, I don't want to spend too much time on it now, but Bama LSU is going to be massive. Of course, in Baton Rouge, that makes it more complicated always, but is there a specific portion of this for Alabama that you're looking at that you say, that's got to happen, or that guy's got to be good, that position group has to be good if they're going to win this game?
Yes, I think they have to be really good in the secondary by their standards. Because if you look at this group of wide receivers, with what Aaron Anderson's developed into, with Kyron Lacey's continued strength and maturity on the perimeter, like, yeah, he'll have some drops or whatnot, but he's a big, physically imposing, strong man and is always difficult to contain. I think the secondary's got to be off the charts good. I mean, I really do. And that's something that would be concerning to me if I were an Alabama fan. I don't know about you, I don't anticipate a lot of pressure against that offensive line. Do you think they're going to be able to heat up Garrett Nussmeier the way A&M was?
Not regularly, no. No.
Exactly. So I don't anticipate a lot of pressure, which means the secondary is going to have to cover for a long time. And it also means that they're probably going to have to keep the ball in front of him a little bit because Nussmeier's going to try to drive it. I do think they can confuse him a little bit with some coverages. And I do think there's chances to blitz Nussmeier and to overload their protection, which I think is what they're going to need to do. Because I'm not sure if you just rush 4, you're getting home this weekend. I don't see that happening. But I do think you can pressure them with blitzes and overloading their protection.
I would agree with that. All right. So that's Alabama LSU coming up this weekend. We know that. But we've got a lot of other games from this past weekend to get to. We'll spend some more time on it on the other side. We'll talk to Tyler Watts about that LSU game coming up as well. But your game, GMAC, A&M 20. They go down, South Carolina 44. The game plan was awesome. And I thought with all the different power counter looks that South Carolina had in, it was exactly what you needed to keep that defense on their heels. But at the same time, you can't talk too much about this game and not just look at it and say, well, Norris Sellers, wow. The dude was a wizard in this game.
100% he was a wizard. How many times did Texas A&M pressure Lenoris Sellers and he somehow found a way to escape and turn what would have been a sack or a negative play into a big gain? At one point, and I remember it was like he was pressured on 10 of 22 dropbacks. And I believe he was pressured on his first 8 of 15 dropbacks. So 15 dropbacks, A&M had pressure coming on 8 of those, and they had 0 sacks to show for it. And not just 0 sacks, but Lenoris Sellers had 5 scrambles for 30 yards. Crazy. That's not even including a completion that he had on a roll to his right that was like another gain of 17. It was like absurd how good it was, and it was really, really impressive. It really was.
Well, we got on our call for Read and React yesterday, and we were talking about that game and what we want to talk about and how we want to talk about it. And one of our guys said there was like McDonough like 2 different times said and Sellers goes down, and then he's just like magically out somewhere else. Like it looked like it was over.
Crazy.
He was sacked, and then next thing you know, he's rolling out looking for somebody downfield.
It was crazy, man. Like it really was. It's super impressive. Continue to be really impressed by them, and I'm telling you, I'm not 100% convinced that if South Carolina had played A&M's schedule, they wouldn't have been in South Carolina's shoes. Like I think those teams are the same team. I think they are so eerily similar, but because of the schedule A&M played and the schedule that South Carolina's played, the results aren't quite the same. So it just goes to show you that this year is going to be really interesting because it's a lot of schedule-dependent evaluations, and that's going to be hard on everybody.
Results are the same at Game Day Men's Health. They're always great. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. They can help you with weight loss. If you have low testosterone, they can help you with that. You schedule a free consultation. They'll give you a free PSA test, free testosterone test right now at Game Day Men's Health by going to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and schedule that no-charge consultation. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have looked ahead already to Alabama LSU once. We'll do it again with Tyler Watts here on the Buyers Right Hotline. He joins us every Monday, normally to review the Alabama broadcast that he was a part of, was not on a part of one this weekend with the Crimson Tide being off. What are you hopeful that was worked on, adjusted, or put in, installed, anything of that nature along those lines, Tyler, in the bye week for Kalen DeBoer's football team?
I know last week we kind of talked about just putting more of an emphasis on the running attack and sticking with it, being more committed to it. And I think hopefully that continue to be a point of emphasis. And then just what can you do off of that if you are able to have some success? I'm kind of thinking back on the last couple of weeks and watching some other defenses around the conference over the weekend. I'm starting to feel better and better about the Alabama defense, and especially the way they've been playing here recently. I think they're hopefully starting to kind of understand exactly where they need to be, what they need to do, how they can make pictures for a quarterback a little hazy and uncertain, and take away some of those primary reads, because they're definitely going to have their hands full this weekend. This is probably by far one of the better offenses that they will have faced all season long, as far as an accurate quarterback who's not going to miss open receivers.
No, I think it's going to be tough, and I do think the secondary will be challenged big time. I think a big thing, though, is a question that I'm real concerned about is, can they generate pressure against an offensive line that I think has a chance to be really good? The pass rush has been a little hit or miss this year. Do you think they can maybe get home a couple times?
You definitely need to. You need to find a way to try to ruffle his feathers a little bit if you can, although he's a fairly confident quarterback, even after throwing multiple interceptions in several games over the course of the year. He's not scared to get back there and fire it again. So you definitely need to try to get to him as much as possible, and kind of go back to just, I don't know if you can necessarily do exactly what you did versus Georgia, creating a lot of confusion up front, because maybe that's the ticket home. And I know this is one of the better offensive lines, but can you generate some things to confuse them and find a way to kind of disrupt his rhythm there in the backfield?
Tyler Watts joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline, discussing this Alabama football team. Moving ahead to LSU, and you mentioned that ground game, and it felt like the last time we saw this team against Missouri, and I know the way that the game was going, the flow of the game helped with this a little bit, but that ability to just play ground and pound, to hand the ball off on consecutive downs, which doesn't feel like it's happened a ton this year. Do you truly believe that they can be a team that lives there the rest of this season, and that be maybe the main foundation, the main core of the offense moving forward?
Well, I don't know if living there is necessarily the right way. Just be more balanced, because if you can continually go back to it and have some success, I think it does nothing but help Jalen Milroe out when he's not the number one rusher. When he is able to take advantages of over-pursuing defenses because you're successful around the football with your back, then he can beat you out the backside and really hurt you. And I think it also helps out the wide receivers and how they're able to get involved, because now all of a sudden you can potentially find linebackers out of place because they're in run support, whether it be RPOs or play actions. So I think it all kind of goes together, but it's really just a matter of being more balanced. You think about what it does to the defensive line, too. When they know there's really not a threat of a run, man, they're pinning their ears back getting after you.
They are, for sure. How would you assess the run game and the commitment to the run game outside of quarterback run and scrambles? Do you feel pretty confident in how that part of the team has kind of grown and evolved over the last couple of weeks? Because really starting with the South Carolina game, I feel because they couldn't really do it against Vandy, the situation didn't allow. Against Georgia, it was a kind of a strange game where they just started with such a flurry, and they didn't really commit to it much in the first 3 weeks. But starting with the South Carolina game to where they're at now, I'm pretty confident in how they're able to run the football. Do you think that's something they can continue to lean on?
They need to. They definitely need to. And they didn't do it versus Tennessee. In the third quarter, they tried to. They had success moving it across the 50. But even on several occasions when they had favorable field position, they did not have a commitment to the run. Now, granted, Jalen Milroe wasn't helping out because he was trying to push the ball downfield so much. So they definitely have to be okay with punting every once in a while. That's not necessarily the worst thing is if you're trying to wear down that defensive front and give that offensive line confidence. Because I really do think they got to be more balanced. They threw the ball way too much versus Tennessee. They got away from that versus Missouri and were much more balanced. And I think it helped everybody out. It took a tremendous amount of pressure off your quarterback, so he wasn't feeling like he had to make plays. And I think all those things are extremely important, especially on the road. Now, you had a true test up at Neyland Stadium. It's the same type of atmosphere that you're going to have this weekend. They need to come out strong, have the quick passes, kind of take a lot of the decision-making away from Jalen Milroe, just have him get rid of the football quickly, try to stay ahead of the chains, because that's when this offense is the most efficient.
So when you look moving ahead, are there a couple of guys or a guy that you feel like has sort of been coming on that with the extra week to prepare, this may be his time to have a little bit more of an impact? I know Emmanuel Henderson's getting a little bit more run. He's sort of that guy that a lot of us have had our eyes on for the last, year or two, that could be a little bit more of an explosive weapon, but not just offensively. Somebody who has maybe been creeping into that lineup that you expect, all right, here for the home stretch, he could help a little bit more than he's shown so far.
Well, another guy on the offense, well, two guys really on the offensive side. Jam Miller's been a little banged up over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully the off week helped him get as close to 100% he possibly can, because if you are going to have a commitment to running the football, then you need to have a three-headed monster back there, and you potentially could have that with Haynes, Jam Miller, and Jalen Milroe. And then we talked about last week of just seeing a little bit more of Kendrick Law. I'd love to see him have 6-7 touches over the course of the game. I think that he's a difference maker as far as stretching that defense out, which then complements the interior running game as well. And then on the defensive side, they just rotate so many people. Hopefully we can have some of these defensive backs that have been banged up a little bit, Davian Brown and some of the others, as close to 100% as well. So, it's an all-hands-on-board type of game. You got to be able to go into a very difficult environment and be able to weather the storm throughout 4 quarters, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I know we kind of all get tired of hearing Kirby Smart talk about how do you handle the adversity over the course of 4 quarters, but he's spot on with that, because there's going to be a lot of things go well and some things go really bad. You got to be able to weather it and put your helmet on and play the next play.
Lastly, what would you have really harped on if you were Kalen DeBoer and company over the last week or so? Like, what would have been your biggest point of emphasis outside of the obvious, like, hey, we got to get healthy, what have you?
Well, from a coaching standpoint, I would say it's be aggressive, but be smart also. And when you get an opportunity to put points on the board, take it. We saw Ole Miss. They got beat because they got a little greedy inside the red zone. And, analytics say go for it. Well, sometimes taking the points is the most important thing. And I think defensively, it's open field tackling, making sure that your communication is spot on in the secondary. That everyone is on the same page, in the right areas, making sure that you're covering up all the windows, because this is a really, really good wide receiver core with an accurate quarterback who's not scared to fire it into holes. And I think you're going to have some opportunities, hopefully, for some takeaways, because Alabama's going to need that. And then offensively, just be physical up front. Just make a commitment to imposing your will if you can. This is one of the worst defenses last year in LSU. They're a lot better this year. But you have an opportunity to control the line of scrimmage, and you got to take advantage of it.
Tyler, we always appreciate it. Before we let you go, LSU Bama memories for you? Is there one thing that sticks out from any point in time than any other?
I took 3 trips to LSU, played in one of them. John Alexander going off and us having a comeback win my true freshman year. Baton Rouge has been a favorable place for Alabama over the course of history, especially the last, 50, 60 years. We've only lost a handful of times down there. And then my senior year, how about this, man, running a 2-minute option, all of it on the ground. I think we drove the ball 80 yards, a minute and a half, and scored a touchdown on them. And I don't think we threw but maybe one pass the entire time.
Not sure we could do that nowadays. But I respect the unless you're Michigan. I think we saw him do it against USC earlier this year. I'm not sure it was quite under 2 minutes, but it was close.
It was. I guess the caveat to that is it was a Nick Saban LSU team we did it on.
Oh,
crazy.
You had to throw that in there. Okay, I see. But you had 37, right?
We did not have 37. We had Shald Williams, and we ran a little draw probably 4 or 5 times, and they could not stop it.
God, I love that. Great stuff. Appreciate the time, Tyler. Always great catching up with you. Look forward to recapping this one next Monday.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, there you go. Tyler Watts, former Alabama quarterback, joins us every Monday to sort of recap Alabama football off over the weekend. So getting his thoughts heading into Alabama and LSU this weekend. Should be a fun one. Should be a good one. I want to go back quickly, Greg, in a moment before we go to break and discuss that South Carolina A&M game, because we haven't really cleaned up just everything that one was. But first, I'll tell you about our friends at Wayne's. Wayne's can do a lot for you. You hear them talking about, the bugs around your house. The termites obviously can help there. Your yard, we've heard about how they can help there. A lot of different home services, full line of home services that Wayne's has. And we're heading towards winter, so wildlife, they want to try to get into your home. That's why Wayne's offers wildlife removal and exclusion services. Team of dedicated wildlife professionals that can handle removal of certain wild animals like rodents, squirrels, raccoons, and bats. In addition to removal, they can get ahead of the problem with their wildlife prevention services, where they expertly identify, seal, and eliminate any common entry points around the exterior of the home that's going to allow the animals to enter the structure. A lot of reasons, G-Mac, that our listeners need to call Wayne's.
Yeah, Wayne's, 866-WAYNES-1. You can also go online, callwaynes.com. All the different services they can provide around your house. I know they're going to bring great value to the experience that you'll have around your house. You're going to love it, man. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's terrific. And I know this for sure. You guys are going to feel great about the services that you receive. So go and check them out, callwaynes.com. That's callwaynes.com, and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, South Carolina A&M, Greg, you were on the call. Not sure a lot of people saw this one going this way when you think about what South Carolina was able to put up offensively. We mentioned it a little bit earlier. Dow Loggins, just an excellent plan with a lot of different read plays, option plays, take that defense, get them upfield, get them out of position, and then be able to hit them different ways. But Lenora Sellers made a lot of plays. Rocket Sanders looked like the old Rocket Sanders. I mean, he was going. He looked like he was as healthy as we've ever seen him. And then they just made some plays, too. I mean, there's a couple, like you get it out to Joshua Simon, the time it in, he breaks a tackle and then goes the distance. It's just that South Carolina made plays, offensively and defensively. And they had kind of the perfect recipe to offset all that talent that A&M's got up front on defense.
No doubt. And I look at kind of where things are for South Carolina, and it's a little unfortunate they're just now starting to round into their form offensively. But it's a team that traditionally under Shane Beamer has finished strong now. They are now 8-4 against Power 4 teams in November under Shane Beamer. That's pretty amazing. They also, if you take into account what they've done in August, September, and October, they're 6-16 against Power 4 competition. So that's a pretty significant difference, right? For them to be 6-16 in the first 2 or 3 months of the season and 8-4 in the final month of the season. Why is that, you think? I just don't know. But obviously, the earlier you catch them, the better.
Absolutely. And then that South Carolina defense, man. Like that just, I thought Clayton White did a great job mixing things up inside. The different run stunts, picking the center a little bit, allowing his guys to play aggressive. The linebacker run through for South Carolina was exceptional. I like Debo 0-17, like they get a running head start. I mean, it is like a Scud missile coming downhill on your offense. And that was a problem for A&M. I don't know if they just didn't expect him to be there that quickly, or if they didn't expect the run through really at all, but they couldn't make the adjustment to be able to offset that. And that led to multiple tackles for loss and stops for that South Carolina defense.
No question. I think both teams are super physical, but I didn't think the execution was great by Texas A&M's offensive line. I mean, like you said, and they ran the short yardage play multiple times. There were 3 times in which they were stoned on short yardage. One, and I'd love to get your take on this, but first short yardage play, you go with the QB sneak with a 180-pound soaking wet quarterback. I never am going to like that, ever. I don't like quarterback sneak in general, and I especially don't like it when my quarterback is a freshman and might weigh 180. 2, you get stuffed on a play. It was a great play by Debo on a 4th and 1. All right. Great play by Debo on a 4th and 1. He runs through the gap, makes the play, goes low, stops the running back's momentum, and stones him. Then you run the exact same play that Debo just saw. Same motion, same everything. So, and earlier in the game, they had a short yards. They went off tackle to the right, and Amari Daniels takes it to the house. Like, I don't know why they kept going back to the inside zone when clearly the stuff on the edges is where they were having some success. I just didn't understand it.
Crazy. And then you talked about it. You brought it up to my attention last night. The quarterback sneak. I mean, it's not like you got a big-bodied, capable guy for a short yardage perspective back there. It's just some of that stuff was a little baffling. So for South Carolina, 44-20, 44 points, second most against an AP top 10 team all time. They won by 24 points, third largest win against an AP top 10 team all time. Second time Shane Beamer has scored 40 or more points against an AP top 10 team. By the way, his dad only did that once. He had multiple players with 100 rushing yards in the same game for the first time since 2021. Rocket Sanders, 144 rushing yards, 92 receiving yards. Here's a throwback for Gamecock fans and maybe some SEC fans. And this is one that you'll hear the name probably if you were paying attention to it then and be like, wow, that dude was an underrated baller. 144 rush yards, 92 receiving yards for Rocket Sanders. First South Carolina player with 100 rush yards and 90 receiving yards in a game since Ryan Brewer, January 1st, 2001. Outback Bowl against Ohio State. Dude, Ryan Brewer was a baller at South Carolina.
I don't remember him at all.
Oh, dude, little white running back. He did everything, man. Like, they threw him the ball. He carried the ball. I think he returned kicks a little bit. Like, he was a playmaker. Undersized, but, like, he was tough. And then Lenora Sellers, 8 of 11 under pressure for 160 yards and a touchdown. A&M, obviously, a tough loss for them. Every team in the league has a loss in conference now, and that 24-point loss, largest as an AP top 10 team versus an unranked opponent in school history. So, speaking of ranked, just really quickly before we go to break, you saw the latest AP poll, Craig?
No, I have not seen it. Is it good?
No. Not really.
Don't love it?
South Carolina not ranked.
Correct.
And who should they be ranked in front of?
I'll just give you...
give me a couple of highlights.
I'll give you 19 through 25. Clemson at 19, Washington State at 20, Colorado at 21, K-State 22, Pitt 23, Vandy 24, Louisville 25. A&M 15.
Pitt, you said.
Yeah, at 23.
Gotcha. All right.
K-State
that makes
22.
Makes great
Colorado
sense.
21.
K-State, yeah, K-State's great.
Louisville 25.
I can tell you this. I would much rather play all of the aforementioned teams than South Carolina. I'm just saying. Like, Kansas State, you can have them. Colorado, good, solid team. You can have them. Clemson, I'd take South Carolina over them right now, for sure. I would take South Carolina over Iowa State. I'd take South Carolina over Army. I do think Colorado could pose some problems for South Carolina, but that's only if Colorado played the game on the perimeter the whole time because their offensive line would get decimated. I think Vandy, we'll find out about that one this week.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
So
I can tell you I would not like to play South Carolina as an opposing quarterback.
Greg, how about South Carolina now at 5-3? Vandy on the road this week. Missouri, Wofford, by the way, who just ended their losing streak to Stanford over the weekend, and then Clemson. Looks a little different than maybe it did a couple weeks ago. The possibilities of what this team might be able to do. So we'll talk more about that, talk more about a couple of other games around the SEC. We had a blowout in the league over the weekend. A couple teams handled their business as well. And one team that won still has a lot of concerns. We'll discuss those next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Jocks 94.5, 9:23 here Monday, November 4th. LSU Bama week coming up this week. Excited about that for sure. Also excited about the deals you can get at Bill Smith Buick GMC. By taking the short drive up to Coleman, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really amazing. All the different things they can do for you. I really have enjoyed shopping there multiple times, and I know you guys will feel the exact same way. So go take the short drive up to Coleman. Go get yourself a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, $13,500 off the sticker. It's brand new. It's a beautiful vehicle with beautiful trim, and they'll get you the best possible deal. So take the short drive up to Coleman. 75% of their business repeat customers, because you'll have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So go see Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager. You'll be glad you did. Be glad you shopped with the GMC dealer of the year and the biggest and the best GMC dealer in the Southeast. You can also shop online at BillSmithBuickGMC.com. All right, so much still to get to here. Ole Miss and their performance on the road at Arkansas. A lot of people thinking that was kind of a trap situation. Like it was kind of in a scenario where, hey, be careful, Georgia coming to town next week. This is not one I'd want to mess around with. Well, they go out and have almost no trouble whatsoever with the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's kind of strange. The quarterback for Arkansas, Taylon Green, went down, got a little awkward, did come back, and then Arkansas proceeded to go 3-and-out on 3 consecutive drives. So that would be the one thing that would have me a little bit to say one of those, hey, were they hurt? What was the deal? All this other stuff, because it looked like Arkansas really lacked some consistency after that moment, but it was no stopping. From the very beginning, there was no stopping Ole Miss and their offense. Jordan Watkins in for the injured Trey Harris, goes for 5 touchdowns. He made a couple great plays, by the way. I thought it might have been Jackson Dart's best performance in an Ole Miss uniform, and it gives them great momentum now heading into a game this week against the Georgia Bulldogs. Cole, did you have any other significant takeaways from the Arkansas Ole Miss game? Because I think it was just kind of an onslaught, so it was hard to gather a lot from it.
It was, and I think that coming out of this game, I continued to sort of think to myself, we might need to start paying a little bit more attention to the Ole Miss defense. Because I think
they're one of the best defenses in the country.
But nobody's treating them that way, and nobody talks about them that way. They lead the nation in sacks, and I just don't feel like there's a lot of people that have either appropriately put them on that level or discussed them on that level. They lead the nation in tackles for loss, 94, and you go look at how many times this year they've had double-digit TFLs in a game. They had double-digit TFLs against Furman, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. 6 games they've gone for 10 or more tackles for loss. So they can be disruptive up front. They've got an edge. They have multiple edge presences now that can get into the backfield. We know about their ability to penetrate inside. You've got Perkins who can kind of play off the ball, on the ball, do different things. Chris Paul is outstanding at linebacker. That's a group that I think may be able to go out and win them games. And I do think offensively that it's understandable to be a little frustrated with maybe some of the lack of balance. And then, I think you have to discuss their health as well. Like, how healthy are they going to be at certain spots? Not having to Trey Harris, I think having played Trey Harris probably going to be big coming up with Georgia this weekend. And you just wonder how the offensive line is going to hold up against this Georgia front. That's going to be something that I think is still problematic because, like you said, just where they got into that game early, the offensive line didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And Jackson Dart was on point, man. He was super accurate with the deep balls early, and that just put Arkansas in a bad spot. I thought Arkansas's front would have more success, and they just flat didn't. That part was just kind of bad. I thought they'd be able to at least be more disruptive and cause more problems, and they
get the ball out too quick. Like, that was the first time I felt like they really emphasized, hey, we got to get the ball out. Like, it's almost like they spent multiple weeks thinking about, all right, we got to stop allowing our offensive line to be a problem. Just get the ball out. Yeah. They quit running around and buying time. Just pick and stick, throw it, let your guys go make a play for it. I felt like he got the ball out much faster in this game.
Also, this is weird, but I feel like it worked in Ole Miss's advantage that the field's a little bit wet. Like I feel like the Arkansas D line was like they couldn't redirect, slipping, sliding a little bit, like couldn't. Like I felt like it sounds odd because you would never think that like the quicker, more athletic team that would benefit them, but I feel like that sort of played into the Ole Miss advantage a little bit as well, at least when they were on offense, because I think it just kind of that's a fast group of Arkansas linebackers and that defensive line, like you said, ball getting out quick and then you're having to redirect to go play some of the short passes, some of the screens. They weren't really able to do it. So it's going to make for a good one this weekend. There's no doubt about it. When you think about Georgia going over to Oxford and having to play Ole Miss, it's because the Georgia-Florida game is one that a lot of people are coming out of with the serious concerns about Carson Beck. Georgia 7-1. They get the win against Florida 34-20. Florida 4-4. You lose your quarterback DJ Lagway early in this game. Aiden Warner comes in, 7-22, 66 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. It wasn't going to go with him in the game, Greg. Like you weren't going to have the downfield threat. You weren't going to have the run options that you do with Lagway. And Florida played tough, man. They're in the game. I mean, they're up at halftime. They had options, they had opportunities in this game, but without Lagway, it was hard to imagine they were ever really going to have a chance to close it out.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I look, as much as I love what Billy's done. I mean, without Lagway, it's going to be very tough if he's out for an extended period. It says it's a hamstring injury. He got carted off, of course. Like, we'll see what happens with it. But there was a lot of good in that tape early, I felt like. I mean, there was a lot to like about some of the things that they had going on. And I know you're ultimately defined by wins and losses, but man, to lose two quarterbacks and to potentially be relying on a walk-on from the Ivy Leagues is something that will not be easy for him to overcome in the event in which Warner's his guy moving forward. But man, this team has made great progress this year. And if they cut bait, it will be, I'm not going to say it's a mistake, but you watch them every week. I've seen great growth in many areas for this football team. On the defensive side at times, I know they got smoked in the first game, and that was a less than stellar performance, but this team's a lot better than they were at the beginning of the year. And that to me is a reflection of coaching. I don't know how you feel about it.
No doubt. And the D-line played great in this game. I mean, they were disruptive up front. They got to the quarterback. I just think they just got worn down as the game went on, but they did some really nice things up front, and Georgia didn't have a consistent run game going, at least not in the middle. They had to live on the perimeter, and then they kind of had to create some things, some end arounds that they had, some toss crack that they had to have go, and some of the quick game to the extension of the run game, backs out of the backfield, hitting them out the flat. I mean, Bobo I thought did a good job altering some things in the second half, but that was it's not like they just lined up and ran the ball right at them and went at the teeth of that defense. That did not take place. So I'm with you. There is improvement. Your best receiver's gone down. You've missed him most of the year. Your starting quarterback, who was the most efficient quarterback through a quarter of the season, goes down. You don't have him. Your backup comes in, shows some life. He goes down. Your best corner's out. I mean, you have to take those things into consideration. So I know this is one of those deals that we've talked about. People's minds are already made up. They're not going to listen to anything that we say about it. They're not going to care because the big picture is going to be really tough to see. But I don't think Florida's in a position to make a move right this second. So until they get some other things figured out, I don't know if they're going to be able to. It's going to be interesting to watch. I want you to discuss one more thing with this game before we go to break. How real are the concerns with Carson Beck moving forward? And not just for the Ole Miss game, but for this team maybe winning an SEC championship, making a playoff push, possibly winning a national title?
Yeah, they're real. They're definitely real. I think he's a really talented guy. That goes without saying. And some of the throws he makes, even this past weekend, I mean, some of the throws he makes and the placement he makes. I mean, the throw to Arian Smith on the critical down against cover zero. I mean, like, there's a lot of things to like about what you see from Carson Beck. The problem is it's too high with the high and too low with the lows. You know who did this a lot in his final year in college football? Sam Darnold. Like, there were some moments where you're like, wow. And then there's also some moments where you're like, what the heck was he thinking? And there's too much of that. And I just don't know why that is, because he was not an interception guy last year. I'm not sure where it came from. It's not like he's got the turnover gene. He's always had the turnover gene. This is who he is. It's kind of out of character, and I can't quite figure out why. So I don't know. You help me understand, like, what you think from watching from your perspective. He's trying things he shouldn't try. He's passing up on open receivers in order to push it downfield. It's like he's reading the detractors and saying, I'm throwing it anyways. I can do it. He almost has a little too much faith in his arm, and that can get you into some trouble as well. So it's pretty frustrating to watch because there's just too much good not to feel great about it. And then he hits you with some terrible decision where he throws it over the middle and has no business throwing it.
I think you and I are seeing some of the bad decisions in a little bit of a different way. You see it more as in belief that he thinks he can just do it. I see it more as maybe a little bit of lack of trust in certain guys. That's just, and again, I didn't play that position, so I don't really know exactly how it always works. But at the end of the day, I think we agree that there are some things that he is attempting that you can put the all-22, you can put the tight end zone shot, you can go, I mean, every sky cam, every camera available, there's nothing there. There's not a throw available. It's not a tight window. There's no window on a couple of these throws. And if that doesn't go away, it will cost them down the road. Whether it's a game, whether it's a spot in the playoff or a playoff game or a national title, there's going to be teams that he can't make those mistakes against. Yeah. He's gotten away with it now a couple times, and you know he made a few against Alabama, was able to battle them back and have them in that game, but still, you're going to get into a game where if you make two of those mistakes like that,
right,
you're not going to be able to come back and win that game.
No, not happening. So
I agree with you, yeah.
I think the margins are too slim in the playoffs to be a turnover team. They're just too slim. And look, they got two tough tests left. I mean, it's not some foregone conclusion that they get to the playoff right now. As crazy as that sounds, and for as good as we feel about Georgia's personnel and program, like, they still got two real big hurdles the next couple weeks against Tennessee and Ole Miss. And right now, I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion they get both. I don't even know if it's a foregone conclusion they get one out of two. Like, they could lose both those games for sure if they continue to gift wrap field position to the opposing offense. And I think they got to address that, man. They got to address it at some point. I don't care if they have to run the ball 3/4 of the time. Their defense is good enough to just live and survive off the punt. But they got to get him processing and being more willing to, hey, check it down, or know when a play is dead. Know when the journey's over. And just throw it away, live to play second down. Like, it's fine.
Absolutely. All right, we'll get to a break, come back, and you'll hear a little bit more from Hugh Freeze, Peyton Thorne, Clark Lee on Auburn's loss to Vanderbilt over the weekend. You'll have to wait for that, but one thing you never have to wait for, GMAC, is your dental care.
That's because Family Dental has you taken care of. They're the urgent care office where you can be seen the same day in 5 locations now to make it easy on you. Hoover, Fultondale, Homewood, and Alabaster, but they are now open in Trustville as well. They can get you in for the routine appointment. They can get you in on Fridays and Saturdays, and they can also give you free teeth whitening when you're in there as well. Call them today for a free call them today for an appointment that can get you in the door at 874-9605. That's 874-9605. It's Family Dental.
All right, a couple more SEC games and a look back at Auburn here from Hugh Freeze next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 10:40 a.m. Monday, November 4th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Auburn goes down to Vanderbilt, 17-7 over the weekend. Auburn now 3-6 on the season. Vandy's bowl eligible. Hugh Freeze saying after the game, just disappointed again.
Extremely disappointed again. This has been too often a story this year for us, for our players and our fans, and just very disappointed. I thought our defense played their guts out and played well enough to win, and probably did the best job against that squad of anyone all year, and outgained them again, and for like the fifth time this year it feels like, and don't have anything to show for it because we're just not able to finish, and whether it's finishing drives with points from our field goal unit, or whether it's us not converting third downs, we struggled at all of that today, and certainly disappointed that we didn't stack upon last week's effort. Just I didn't think we strained as well offensively as we did last week at Kentucky.
All right, Hugh Freeze after the game also just asked about some of the struggles in the run game that Auburn has had at different points in time this year.
I thought Vandy did a good job. Played a lot of bear front and did a lot of different things that were going to take away some of the run game from us. And thought they tackled extremely well. And I'll have to watch the film to see, how well we strained at the point of attack. It's hard for me to tell that. But some of the credit goes to them. They've been very good against the run all year, and word today for sure. Whether or not that was a combination of us poorly executing, or whether that was them, I have to watch the film and see.
So Hugh Freeze just obviously disappointed and frustrated with the way that the thing went after the game. Peyton Thorne was asked about the team's mentality moving forward for the rest of this season.
Yeah, like you said, we got to win out, and so it starts with the next game, which is in 2 weeks, and can't worry about the next two after that. And so need to win that one to keep it alive, obviously, and then need to win the next one. So it's 1 week at a time. Got to, like I said before, be smart with our bye week and be smart taking care of our bodies and getting our work in, and then put a good plan together and go out and execute it for our next game.
All right, so not sure what the mentality will be moving forward, GMAC. If it's going to be go young, if it's going to be stick with what you got. I mean, for me, I don't know why you don't turn the page, start looking ahead towards next year to a certain extent, and start getting everybody ready, getting some younger guys ready, see what you have with certain players.
I can't get on board with that. I just am never one to align with, hey, we can play for next year. I just think that that's a disservice to the seniors that have also worked just as hard as the young guys. While if your individual performance warrants being benched, then by all means. But that would be dependent on the player and how they've graded out over the course of the season. So if it's close, or if maybe a guy hasn't played great, then sure, maybe give the freshman a little more run, but not necessarily in a situation where I'm fine sacrificing wins in favor of getting a look at some of the guys that might be on the field next year. I just think that sends a wrong message. And it gives off the impression that, hey, yeah, we're not necessarily all in to win right now. Like, we don't care necessarily about winning this week. We care about winning next year. And I never feel like that's something that's a good thing moving forward to install into the identity and the fabric of the program.
We'll see where it goes, that mentality. You get a week off, then you get Louisiana Monroe, finish up Texas A&M at home, and then Alabama on the road. All right, so we'll take our final break of the day. When we come back, a bad box score or two from the weekend. Next, Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Pretty good show for you today. Matt Moscona, Tyler Watts, Paul Finebaum. Go get those podcasts at jocksfm.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get yours. We always appreciate that. All right, we bring it to you each and every day. It is the best of the worst. It is our bad box score of the day.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
Intentional grounding, offense number 7. It's a 10-yard penalty. I'm talking to America here, excuse me.
That's the game. All right, so we will go to Division III football. The West Georgia
Pioneers.
No, they are the Wolves, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I feel like we should know that around
Auburn's.
here. How y'all not know that?
I knew it.
No, Damien got it.
Of course.
Probably lost.
No, I like mine better.
Yeah, I think Pioneers works better.
They've been pretty good for a while.
Exactly. They knocked off Sanford to start the season.
Well, you didn't have to bring that up again.
My fault.
Got him.
I mean, that's your team that you do games for, not us. So we're putting that on you. Definitely not ours. They took on the Lincoln County, California.
Logs.
No, they are they're the Jaguars.
Abes.
The what?
The Abes. Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, no.
Don't like it?
No, they're the Eagles.
Greg was 2 for 2 with that one.
Lincoln's 0-9. They went down 88-12 over the weekend.
Ooh, they got Wilkes Booth. Ooh.
And West Georgia's only 3-6.
Ooh, got him.
West Georgia ran the ball 38 times for 324 yards.
Okay, ground and pound, baby.
They had 7 rushing touchdowns on the day.
I'm here for it.
The total yardage differential was 533 to 209. On the ground, 324 to 15.
Oh boy.
That's on 25 carries for Lincoln, by the way. Lincoln had 16 penalties for 123 yards.
That's where they got them.
They were not emancipated.
Every time.
That's what got them.
Every
They
time.
almost had more penalty yards than they did passing yards. They threw for 194.
Not great.
Can't play behind the chains, man.
Not what you need. They were 2
Not
for 11
great.
on third down, speaking of behind the chains. West Georgia went 6 of 8 on third down. They had 2 quarterbacks combined to go 11 of 16, 209 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. Dylan Gary had 3 receptions, 147 yards, and a touchdown.
Go ahead, D.
2 running backs went for over 100 yards in the game. Latrell Morrell, 13 for 139, 3 touchdowns. Rajez Mosley, 11 for 110 and 2 rushing touchdowns.
2 for 2.
Okay.
So an absolute dominant performance there for the West Georgia Wolves. Also over the weekend, the St. John's, Minnesota.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say Red Wave or Red Storm or whatever.
Yeah, that too. This is St. John's, Minnesota. They are the
Blue Boys.
No, they're the Bulls.
It's actually a good guess, but no.
I'll say the Snowmen.
They're the Johnnies.
The Johnnies.
And the Johnnies are 8-0. And they just snuck past the Saint Scholastica
Book fairs.
Yes, books.
No, they are the Saints.
They are the Saints.
Oh,
Come on, man.
At least the Saints.
And the Saints are 2-6 on the season now as they went down 70-0.
The old 70-point shutout.
So it's the name. Okay, so both Saints stink. Okay.
It's definitely the name. Your rushing differential was 144 to 33 in this game.
So that means air raid attack.
Your passing differential was 427 to 99.
Air raid.
Wow.
It's a total offense differential of 571 to 132. The Saint Scholastica punted 9 times for 344 yards in the game. St. John's would punt twice.
All right, Legatron.
11 kickoffs for 602 yards for the Johnnies.
Johnnies.
The Johnnies went 9 of 14 on third down. You could probably imagine 4 of 16 on third down for the Saints. Not the best day.
No, get him a body bag, Johnny.
Not great.
Add that to an 0 for 3 on fourth down. The Johnnies were 7 of 7 in the red zone, by the way. All 7 of them were touchdowns.
Yikes.
Right,
No
so
big
Dennis Allen's not
surprise.
their coach. Okay.
No big surprise there. Aaron Severson went 21 of 28, 341 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, no interceptions.
That a boy.
Did you hear that tomorrow?
He also ran the ball 1 time for 13 yards.
Ooh, 1.
That's all it takes, man.
All it takes.
Hey, listen, he added to his total. That put him over 350 total yards. Donald West, not great through the air for St. Scholastica. He was 11 of 29. No touchdowns, also an interception on the day.
Tough day.
So,
Not great.
you know, it wasn't their best day.
They were not blessed.
Day.
No.
St. John's also had 11 tackles for loss and 4 sacks in the game.
Getting after defense. That's all I like to see.
They were aggressive. So those are your bad box scores of the day. St. Scholastica, the Saints go down 70-0 to the St. John, Minnesota Johnnies. The Johnnies got the win.
I've never heard of that. Like I don't even. Like,
The Johnnies.
What is a Johnny?
It was their 500th MIAC victory in program history.
Yeah.
They're number 3 nationally, by the way, right now,
Really?
if you're keeping up at home.
Okay.
Yes, really. What, does that surprise you?
Very much so, yeah.
Aaron Severson, who I mentioned, now has 128 career touchdown passes, 11,213 career passing yards, 426 yards shy of former Johnny standout
Walker Bueller.
Jackson Erdman's 2019
man.
program and conference
Wow.
record for passing yards, 11,639.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about air raid?
Oh, Jackson. Oh, my bad.
And by the way,
yeah.
Jackson Erdman also has the MIAC record for touchdown passes with 139. So Aaron is on his way to that too.
Atta
He's only
baby.
11. He's only 11
See
down.
ya.
Give him the
he
Heisman.
locked that one
It's
in.
locked up.
16th 300-yard game of his career. That's more than Jackson Dart has at Ole Miss.
He'll be playing on Sundays.
Hey.
I'm just saying,
That's
Jackson
what
Dart
it's
just
all-
got his 13th, and that's a school record. Aaron Severson has 16.
Give him the Heisman.
He's already the school record holder for completions with 862. I bet that's more than you had, Greg.
Probably.
Oh, wow. That was in
Putting
the
up
face.
Timmy Chang numbers, baby.
Record setting. I should have prefaced this as a historical bad box score of the day.
It is.
Greg would have checked
But
out.
y'all wouldn't have believed me.
Greg would have, no.
I would have probably pushed back there.
Yeah. They also had a pick 6 in the game, so no surprise there.
Not important.
All
Ask
right,
Carson
tomorrow-
Beck. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Tomorrow, Trey Biddy going to join us. Arkansas's got the week off. What does that mean for their head coaching situation? We'll ask him that question. Trent Dilfer going to be with us as well tomorrow. Pretty big game over the weekend.
Not
Or, I'm
small.
sorry, Andy Burcham, not Trent Dilfer. Andy Burcham tomorrow at 8 a.m. We'll talk the future of Auburn football for the rest of this season. UAB did get a win, though. We're back tomorrow, 3-man front, coming at you next.